Chapter 3801. Ian, there's no need to talk about it now. Let's talk about it in detail later. Xiao Hua had already noticed that Xiao Jian, Yuan Ya, Qin Xiaoyao, and the rest were not present. The people from Jiang country were also not present. He already understood something and waved his hand. Yes. Xiongyi didn't dare to say anything and retreated to the Black Wind Ridge. The late nascent soul stage cultivators Shui Mingzi and Ao Zhantian also flew over to greet Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua looked at these cultivators with a smile on his face and greeted them one by one. On the Black Wind Ridge, Li Xiong and Xiongyi were considered family, while Shui Mingzi and Ao Zhantian were guests. Xiao Hua still had enough patience to treat them. After the greeting, Xiao Hua smiled and said, "The two of you are very trustworthy. You came to the Black Wind Ridge early. However, it seems that there are still quite a few of you who didn't keep your promise." Ian, Daoist Xiao is right. Ao Zhantian nodded. The number of cultivators gathered at the Black Wind Ridge today is 30% less than the other day. There are indeed some cultivators who didn't take the blood oath seriously. Shui Mingzi smiled and said, "Of course, they must have their own difficulties. I and the rest will have to discuss this matter with Daoist Xiao later." "All right." Xiao Hua raised his head and looked at the Black Wind Ridge. The brocade chair in his cave had been taken out and placed on it. Liu Yi and Wang Bianfei were already standing on both sides of the brocade chair. The area in front of the brocade chair had already been cleared and no one dared to get too close. "Master, please take a seat." Liu Yi and Wang Bianfei saw Xiao Hua's gaze and bowed at the same time. "Daoist Xiao, please take a seat." Ao Zhantian and Shui Mingzi naturally also saw the scene of Xiao Hua killing Xie Han and Jiang Zhonghong. They knew that their cultivation was far inferior to Xiao Hua's, so they also said respectfully. Xiao Hua nodded slightly. He didn't use wind escape or any other flying techniques. Instead, he walked step by step to the front of the brocade chair. Following Xiao Hua's walk, Li Xiong, Xiongyi, Chang Yu and the others also hurriedly flew and stood in their positions. When Xiao Hua sat on the brocade chair, Xiongyi and the rest bowed and shouted, "Welcome back, Master." This cheer was truly like a tsunami. The echo lingered around the entire mountain peak and did not calm down for a long time. "Greetings, Daoist Xiao." After Xiongyi and the others greeted Huang Xiaolong, Ao Zhantian, Shui Mingzi, and the others didn't dare to be negligent. "Disciples and fellow Taoists, please rise." Xiao Hua looked at everyone who had their heads lowered, and an indescribable feeling of heroism arose in his heart. He raised his hand and smiled, "While this old man wasn't here, I've made everyone work hard. Today, this old man has returned. In the future, my Black Wind Ridge will no longer have to worry about the harassment of Confucian cultivators. If one of them comes, we'll kill one. If two come, we'll kill two. Even if 1,000 come, we'll kill 1,000 of them. Master is mighty." Xiongyi and the others naturally knew that this was Xiao Hua's heroic words, and they all respectfully replied. "Fellow Taoists Shui Mingzi and the other Taoists, what I said before also counts now. This Black Wind mountain range is your home, your shelter on the hidden immortal continent. If you have any problems, you can come to Black Wind mountain range. I will make the decision for you. Many thanks, Daoist Xiao." Shui Mingzi and the others naturally had to express their stance, and they all replied in unison. Then, Li Xiong and the others stepped forward and roughly explained the situation of Black Wind Ridge. Xiao Hua looked at everyone and smiled, "Everyone has worked hard. Please rest for a while. This old man will arrange a banquet with He Xiong and the others. Today, we'll drink until we're drunk." "Thank you, Daoist Xiao." The group of cultivators expressed their gratitude, but they didn't really care. After all, they had already seen the situation of Black Wind Ridge. How could there be good wine and good food? After everyone dispersed to cultivate, Xiao Hua led Shui Mingzi and the others into the cave. After everyone sat down, Shui Mingzi glanced at Ao Zhantian and said, "Daoist Xiao, after this one bid farewell to you, I returned to my cave and made some arrangements before coming to Black Wind Ridge. However, on the way here, this one heard some things about the Star Lord Palace of Yaotai Mountain. I wonder if Daoist Xiao has heard of it." Ian, This Xiao has naturally heard of it. Xiao Hua nodded. However, this Xiao doesn't understand what happened to the Star Lord Palace of Yaotai Mountain. As for what exactly happened, even now, we still don't know. Ao Zhantian continued from the side. However, it seems that the matter is very serious. There are some rumors that Kong Hongwu has been killed. Ah! Kong Hongwu? Xiao Hua was a little surprised. Kong Hongwu is a martial grandmaster with 5th grade essence energy. Among the cultivators who participated in the Yaotai Mountain gathering, who has such ability? Ao Zhantian and Shui Mingzi knew that Xiao Hua was very strong, but they didn't think that Xiao Hua could kill Kong Hongwu with 5th grade essence energy. Shui Mingzi's face was slightly embarrassed, and he said in a low voice, Daoist Xiao has just returned. I and the others had some thoughts before, but we shouldn't mention it now. However, the current situation is too strange. It's like the silence before the thunder. No one knows when the Confucian cultivators will make trouble. I discussed with Brother Ao, and we feel that it's better to tell Daoist Xiao as soon as possible. How could Xiao Hua not understand? He smiled and said, Fellow Taoists, you mean? Cough, cough, our blood oath is still valid. Shui Mingzi coughed, and he felt that his face was a little hot. He smiled and said, however, we hope that Daoist Xiao won't detain us in the Blackwind Mountain range. This way, not only will it easily cause a misunderstanding among the Confucian cultivators, but it will also invite the Immortal Palace to kill us at such a sensitive time. Moreover, in I's opinion, those fellow Taoists who don't dare to come may not be afraid of the blood oath, but are afraid of provoking a fatal disaster. Is this the result of everyone's discussion? Xiao Hua still asked with a smile on his face. Shui Mingzi and Ao Zhantian's hearts thumped. They looked at each other, and a trace of gloominess flashed in their eyes. However, Ao Zhantian still nodded and said, that's right. We discussed this matter before Daoist Xiao returned. Because of this, you allowed Li Xiong and He Xiong to fight outside the formation. Were you hiding inside the formation? Xiao Hua's face suddenly turned cold, and he asked. We wouldn't dare, we wouldn't dare. Shui Mingzi and Ao Zhantian hurriedly explained. At this time, Xiong Yi hurriedly took 2 steps forward, bowed, and said, this was disciple's idea. Master, please don't blame the 2 seniors. En. Xiao Hua nodded. Shui Mingzi and Ao Zhantian hurriedly said, Daoist Xiao, before we arrived at the Blackwind Mountain range, we were stopped by fellow Daoist Xiong Yi's disciples. We didn't even meet the Confucian cultivators who were besieging the Blackwind Mountain range. We only knew that fellow Daoist Xiong Yi did this to hide the Blackwind Mountain range, so we stayed in the Blackwind Mountain range. If there really was a problem, do you think that we wouldn't intervene? Hehe, it seems that I have misunderstood you 2 fellow Taoist. Xiao Hua thought for a moment and said, I will think about what fellow Taoist said for a few days. When I have a result, I will discuss it with you. Shui Mingzi and Ao Zhantian cupped their fists and said, rest assured, Daoist Xiao. We have experienced life and death with Daoist Xiao. No matter what Daoist Xiao decides, our blood oath is still valid. Xiao Hua got up and sent them out, then sat back down. He looked around and said with a smile, the outsiders have left, only my Fortune Gates disciples are left. Xiong Yi, tell me, what is going on? At this time, another Xiao Hua saw an unfamiliar disciple coming in from outside. He bowed and said, reporting to Master, there is a Confucian cultivator named Fu Juwen outside the formation. He says that he is Master's disciple. Indeed, let him in. Xiao Hua nodded and was about to speak to Xiong Yi when he saw the disciple's hesitant expression. Xiao Hua asked curiously, what's wrong? That. The disciple smiled bitterly. The Black Bear King killed him because he thought that Fu Juwen was also a Confucian cultivator and fought with him. Although Fu Juwen said that he was Master's disciple, the Black Bear King didn't believe him. This Black Bear King, how could he be Fu Juwen's opponent? Xiao Hua chuckled and released his divine sense, shouting a few words in a low voice. Sure enough, not long after, the Black Bear King walked in with a sad expression on his face. Behind him was a smiling Fu Juwen. Fu Juwen recognized Xiao Jian and Yuan Ya, but he didn't recognize the people in the Blackwind Ridge. He looked around and bowed, Master, Yen, this is Liu Yi and Wang Bianfei. They are both your junior brothers. As for the other senior brothers, let them introduce you. Xiao Hua nodded. Yes, Master. Fu Jiwen looked at Liu Yi, who was waving at him, and smiled as he walked over to stand beside the two. Master Ah. The Black Bear King felt wronged and said, You have accepted one disciple after another, when will you accept this little one as your disciple? What? You want to be this old man's disciple? Xiao Hua asked with a smile. When the Black Bear King heard this, he smiled and said, Look at what Master is saying, this little one is the gatekeeper of Master's cave abode. How would I dare to let Master accept a disciple? It's just that Master's disciples are each more powerful than the other, and this one who hasn't even introduced himself beat this little one up, this little one's heart. Hihi, senior brother Black Bear. Fu Jiwen rolled his eyes and took out a jade bottle from his chest and handed it to the Black Bear King, saying, This is a third transformation spirit pill that I got from the side. It seems to be useful to senior brother, please accept it as my apology. Ayo, junior brother, you're too polite. The Black Bear King took the jade bottle and held it tightly, but his mouth gave in and said, If you do this, won't it make senior brother look too stingy? Not at all, not at all. Fu Jiwen smiled and said, Senior brother Black Bear brought the other junior brothers to guard the Black Wind Ridge for Master. With so much hard work, this little bit of spirit pill is nothing. In the future, this little one will have to rely on senior brother Black Bear in the Black Wind Ridge. Haha, well said, well said. The Black Bear King flipped his hand and kept the jade bottle, then said casually, The Black Wind Ridge is ours. The one we have to rely on is Master. -13. Chapter 3802. Xiao Hua pursed his lips and ignored the Black Bear spirit. He looked at Xiong Yi and said, I've been disturbed by this black bear. Xiong Yi, tell me the situation. Yes, Master. Xiong Yi hurriedly explained the situation after he arrived at the Black Wind Ridge. Xiao Hua gradually understood. It turned out that Xiong Yi had brought Wu Tian, Chang Yu, and dozens of other golden core cultivators to the Black Wind Ridge safely, but they were faced with the siege of several Confucian cultivators. Of course, with Xiong Yi and Chang Yu's strength, as well as the help of Li Xiong and the Black Bear Spirit, it wasn't too difficult for them to enter the Black Wind Ridge. But after Xiong Yi entered the formation and told Xiao Hua about the arrangements, Li Xiong was in a difficult position. Li Xiong had promised Xiao Hua that he would consider leaving the Black Wind Ridge after the Jade Pavilion meeting. Since Xiao Hua didn't return, he couldn't leave. This was somewhat different from his original intention. However, Li Xiong still chose to stay after being persuaded by Xiong Yi's glib tongue. Although Li Xiong did not hand over the array flag that controlled the capital star array, he had handed over the planning of the Black Wind Ridge to Xiong Yi. Soon after, Xiong Yi discovered that Xiao Jian, Yuan Ya, and the original forces of Jiang Country had left the Black Wind Ridge with Jiang Country's Chongling princess. Now, the Black Wind Ridge was filled with Fortune Gate disciples. Then, while Xiong Yi arranged the manpower, he discussed with Chang Yu and Wu Tian, and then explained to Li Xiong what Xiao Hua knew. Li Xiong was surprised, but he also listened to Xiong Yi's arrangements. He still supported the entire Black Wind Ridge on the surface. Xiong Yi and the others' arrival was not only hidden from the surrounding Confucian cultivators, but also from Xiao Jian and the others. Then, Xiong Yi arranged for the Fortune Gate disciples to break out of the Black Wind Ridge's encirclement and hide hundreds of li away. Whenever they saw a Dao cultivator heading to the Black Wind Ridge, they would come out to meet them. If they were going to the Black Wind Ridge to serve, they would also secretly enter the Black Wind Ridge with them. However, as time passed, not only was Li Xiong surprised and felt incredulous, even Xiong Yi felt pressure. After all, Shui Mingzi, Ao Zhantian, Royal Highness Lan, and dozens of nascent soul intermediate stage cultivators were all here. Any one of them would be famous anywhere in the hidden immortal continent and would attract the attention of the Immortal Palace. Now that all of them were gathered at Black Wind Ridge, that was simply courting death. Fortunately, the arrival of Shui Mingzi and the others was not completely noticed by the Confucian cultivators surrounding the mountain. Even if some of them felt that something was wrong, the strength of the people surrounding the mountain would change after a short period of time. There was no need to fear that someone would see the true strength of Blackwind Ridge. Li Xiong, Black Bear, Golden Eagle and White Lion would go out to fight every once in a while. Usually, they would be defeated and return as a cover. Of course, this time, the Black Bear spirit and the others were prepared. Unlike the previous time, they had no fear or thoughts of escaping. Moreover, Xiongyi also made it clear that Xiao Hua had some matters to attend to and had gone somewhere else. He would be back soon, although this soon would be several years in a flash. When Xiao Hua heard the end, he finally understood Xiongyi's plans. He couldn't help but admire this astute disciple. He nodded with a smile and said, "Xiongyi, you have arranged well. Master is very satisfied. You have worked hard. Master is too kind. This is what this disciple should do," Xiongyi answered humbly. "Then the imperial tutor's lot?" Xiao Hua thought and asked with a smile. "Today, I presume the Changling princess has already revived her country?" "Good, master knows." Xiongyi hurriedly answered. "The imperial tutor's lot is still in junior sect brother Chang Yu's hands. This disciple has not given it to the Changling princess." "Oh, why?" Xiao Hua was surprised. "Isn't the imperial tutor's lot used for the Changling princess to establish a country? Could it be that the Jiang country still hasn't recovered?" Xiongyi turned to look at the silent Li Xiong and said, "Good, master knows that the imperial tutor's lot needs the imperial tutor's essence blood to be used. If master does not return, this disciple does not dare to act on his own." Essence blood? Hearing this, Xiao Hua's eyes narrowed. He immediately thought of the life bond spirit tablets of the cultivation sects on the Dawn Rain continent. He thought to himself, "Damn, it seems this is a method the Immortal Palace uses to control the cultivators of the Daoist sects. How can this old man be fooled? It is this old man's mistake, I forgot about this." Xiao Hua nodded. "All right, the Changling princess must be anxious from waiting. In a few days, I will send the imperial tutor's lot over, and let you be the imperial tutor of Jiang country." This disciple does not want to be the imperial tutor of Jiang country. Xiongyi shook his head firmly. "Oh, what is it? Is this old man the one who obtained the imperial tutor's lot, so only this old man can be the imperial tutor?" Xiao Hua asked curiously. Xiongyi said with a smile, "That is not the case. However, after tomorrow, master can make a decision." "Why?" Xiao Hua was curious. "Hehe, this disciple will keep you in suspense first. Master will know everything tomorrow." Xiongyi replied mysteriously again. Xiao Hua did not ask more about this matter, and asked again, "Okay, let's not talk about this for now. What do you think about Shui Mingzi, Ao Zhantian, and the others? Fellow Daoist Li, say something." Li Xiong seemed to be awakened by Xiao Hua, and said with a smile, "This matter, actually, when senior Shui Mingzi came, this one had already thought about it. The two old seniors are right. The so-called tall trees attract the wind. The situation of the hidden immortal continent is especially sensitive now. If you do not want to provoke the immortal palace, Zhenren should not be too high-profile about this matter. It is better to let them go first. Since there is a blood oath as a restriction, they are still Zhenren's help. They are scattered around the hidden immortal continent, and are also Zhenren's forces. There are only benefits and no disadvantages." Xiongyi also had the same opinion, and said with a smile, "Master, there was a change in the Yaotai conference. I think the Immortal Palace's arrangement must have been disturbed. Then, the Immortal Palace will definitely send people to investigate the world. Not to mention the Blackwind Ridge, even our Dao sect does not have the strength to challenge the Immortal Palace. We can only avoid the sharp edge. Perhaps Master does not want to let them all go. It is fine to keep some. Yen, this old man understands." Xiao Hua said with a smile, "Then we will do as you have discussed." Then, Xiao Hua looked at the Black Bear spirit and asked, "How is the mining of the Vitality Stone vein in the Blackwind Ridge?" "I will let Master know." When the Black Bear spirit heard the question about his work, he immediately puffed out his chest and said, "In these years when Master was not here, the little three demons urged the boy to mine day and night. However, there are too many vitality stones in this vein. Until now, we have not dug out all of them. You stupid bear. Xiao Hua scolded with a smile. This old man is asking you how many vitality stones you have mined. You want to mine all of them, but do you have the ability to do so? He. As for how much we have mined, this little one does not know. I still have to ask Marshal Uncle Li. The black bear spirit scratched his head and laughed. Xiao Hua waved his hand and stopped Li Xiong from speaking. He took out a chenkuan bag and handed it to the black bear spirit, saying, "This is some spiritual fruit and spiritual wine. Take it and set up a banquet. Remember, this is for the guests who came from afar. Don't be anxious." Yes, this little one understands. The black bear spirit took the chenkuan bag, bowed, and left. All right, there is no need to think too much. Xiao Hua stood up and said, "Fellow Daoist Li, Xiong Yi, you two go out and entertain the guests. This old man will go out in a while. Liu Yi, you three come in with me." Xiong Yi looked at the somewhat absent-minded Li Xiong and smiled. He pulled his Daoist robe and walked out of the cave. Li Xiong walked 2 steps and seemed to think of something. He looked to his left and sent a voice transmission to Xiong Yi. Xiong Yi also sent a voice transmission in a low voice. The two of them walked further and further away. Not long after the two of them left, Xiao Hua brought Fu Jiwen, Liu Yi, and Wang Bianfei out of the inner cave. He naturally came to check on the cultivation progress of his 2 disciples. In the end, Liu Yi and Wang Bianfei did not disappoint him. In just a few years' time, they had already cultivated to the upper 1st grade of essence force. This really made Xiao Hua speechless. He knew that this was undoubtedly due to the miraculous effect of his spiritual pills, and also because Li Xiong had personally taught them. The most important thing was the talent of his 2 disciples. The banquet at the Black Wind Ridge naturally would not disappoint the cultivators of the Dao sect. Spirit fruits and delicacies, toasting, and the rarely seen wine made Shui Mingzi and the others extremely surprised. The stars in the sky were dazzling, and the bonfire on the ground was bright. After a night of silence, Xiong Yi brought Li Xiong and stood respectfully outside Xiao Hua's cave. When Xiao Hua came out of the cave, the two of them hurriedly greeted him. Xiong Yi smiled and said, "Master, please follow your disciple to watch a good show today." Oh! Xiao Hua looked at Xiong Yi from top to bottom, wanting to ask something, but thinking about Xiong Yi's mysteriousness yesterday, he simply did not say anything. However, Xiong Yi did not need to say anything. Xiao Hua already vaguely knew that this good show might be related to Xiao Jian. Sure enough, the 3 of them flew up into the sky, heading towards the Jiang country that Xiao Hua had never been to before. Along the way, Xiong Yi would occasionally ask some questions about cultivation, but Li Xiong still had a pondering look on his face. It seemed like Xiong Yi's sound transmission yesterday did not help him solve his doubts. Xiao Hua had just returned. Although he had some understanding of Li Xiong's thoughts, there were still a lot of things to do, so he did not directly ask, and only gave pointers to Xiong Yi's cultivation. The 3 of them were all nascent soul stage cultivators. Although they did not transform into rainbows, flying to the capital of Jiang country only took the time of a meal. Seeing a large city appear in the distance, Xiao Hua naturally released his spiritual will, and it was at this moment that Xiong Yi suddenly laughed. "Master, don't disturb them, or else we won't be able to see today's show." Oh! Xiao Hua frowned. He retracted his spiritual will and asked curiously, "Them? Who are they?" "Master, just follow me." Xiong Yi was still unwilling to speak, and heard Xiao Hua shake his head in annoyance. Immediately after, Xiong Yi brought Xiao Hua and Li Xiong, and did not directly fly into the capital of the Jiang country. Instead, they flew high into the sky, and when they were about 10 miles away from the capital of the Jiang country, they waved their hands and took out a magic treasure from their cosmos bag. Under the activation of their mana, the magic treasure turned into a pavilion. -13. Chapter 3803. Master, Marshal Uncle Li, please. Xiong Yi invited the 2 of them to ascend the pavilion, and then cast a spell. The pavilion was suffused with runes and clouds, and in a moment, it disappeared into the air. Xiao Hua sat in the pavilion and watched the clouds dance beneath his feet. He knew that Xiong Yi had hidden his tracks and was heading towards the capital of Jiang country. He couldn't help but feel a little heavy in his heart. He really didn't know what Xiao Jian had done this time. The pavilion flew to the sky above the capital of Jiang country and stopped there. Xiongyi said with a smile, "Master, do you still have spirit fruits and spirit wine? Disciple did not have enough yesterday. Seeing that disciple has worked so hard today, can you reward me with some? Hehe, if you want it, there's plenty." Xiao Hua waved his hand, and the jade table in the pavilion was filled with strange spirit fruits, all of which were not present at last night's banquet. When Xiao Hua took out a few more pots of spirit wine, the clear fragrance of the wine assailed his nostrils, and it was even more fragrant than the spirit wine from last night. Li Xiong, who was originally silent, also unconsciously came back to his senses. Master really has a lot of collection. At this time, Xiongyi was considered a junior, so he did not hold back. As he spoke, he reached out and took a spirit fruit, and unceremoniously took a bite. When the spirit fruit entered his stomach, Xiongyi's eyes flashed with surprise, and the way he looked at Xiao Hua also changed. He almost lowered his voice and said, "Master, this spirit fruit of yours. How old is it? Eat yours. Who cares how old it is?" Xiao Hua smiled but did not say anything. He also picked up an oval-shaped spirit fruit and tasted it. This was something he had obtained at the bottom of the Saint River and was planted by Xiao Guo. What a waste of resources. Xiongyi reached out and took a plate of spirit fruits and put them into his Chenkuan bag. He actually shook his head and said, "This kind of thing. TSK, you're eating it like this." Sigh, disciple won't say any more. Li Xiong poured himself a cup of wine, squinted his eyes and drank it. He smacked his lips and poured another cup, but the mana around his body was slightly surging. It was obvious that he was refining the wine that had entered his stomach. Upon seeing this, Xiao Hua took out a jade bottle from his bosom and handed it to Li Xiong. "Fellow Daoist Li, you've worked hard these past few years. These are some medicinal pills, which are quite useful for you to break through to the middle yuanying stage. This." Li Xiong looked at the jade bottle and couldn't help but look at Xiongyi. Unfortunately, Xiongyi only cared about eating the spirit fruit and didn't pay any attention to him. After thinking for a moment, Li Xiong smiled and said, "Daoist Master Xiao, I still have some things on my mind. Today's spirit pill. I ask Daoist Master to take it back first. It won't be too late to ask Daoist Master for it after I have made a decision." "All right." Xiao Hua nodded. Just as he was about to take back the jade bottle, he said, "Fellow Daoist Li, please feel free to ask." At this moment, Xiongyi stretched out his hand and said with a smile, "Master, Martial Uncle Li has worked hard. This disciple has also worked hard. Don't favor one and discriminate against the other." "Hehe, you're right, here you go." Xiao Hua was very fond of Xiongyi's generosity and handed the jade bottle to Xiongyi without any hesitation. Xiongyi took it and scanned it with his divine perception. He exclaimed, "Master, is this a heart fusion pill? In this disciple's impression, it seems to have been lost in the hidden immortal continent." Indeed. Xiao Hua nodded. "Master recently had some fortuitous encounters and obtained the lost pill recipe. Therefore, I casually refined some and you can try it." "Not only the pill recipe, Master, the spirit grass." "Forget it, disciple won't ask. With Master here, disciple doesn't have to worry about these things in the future." Xiongyi wanted to say something but hesitated, as if he was guarding against Li Xiong, an outsider. Seeing this, Li Xiong's brows furrowed even more, and the spirit wine in his hand was also cup after cup. Of course, Xiongyi knew what Li Xiong was thinking, but he didn't ask. He accompanied Xiao Hua to talk about some recent situations and the scenery of the hidden immortal continent. After another hour, seeing that the sun was high in the sky, Xiongyi waved his hand, and a thin layer of silver-white brilliance appeared in the pavilion. A large villa appeared in the brilliance. As Xiongyi made a gesture, the brilliance moved above the villa like a mirror, and the scenery inside the villa could be seen clearly. This villa was a majestic place. Not only was it surrounded by water on all sides, it was also surrounded by mountains and beautiful trees. Moreover, in the corner of the villa, the various pavilions were equally beautiful. The pavilions were also hidden between the lakes and mountains. It was obvious that they were not ordinary people. Seeing this scene, Xiao Hua frowned. If this villa was in the wilderness, then it would be fine, but this was the capital of Jiang country, and there were actually mountains and ridges in this villa. What kind of extravagance was this? Li Xiong raised his head, looked at the villa, and said indifferently, "This is Qin Haoyue's residence in the Jiang country. It is called the National Master's Garden. Whenever he is not in the palace, he will cultivate here." Xiao Hua smiled slightly. "Fellow Daoist Li, are you not cultivating here?" He, how can I compare to the #1 imperial advisor of the Jiang country? I have only been here once, and it was when I had just submitted to the Jiang country. Qin Haoyue. He is a little narrow-minded, and doesn't like others looking at his things. Li Xiong took a sip of spirit wine and said self-deprecatingly. While the two of them were talking, Xiong Yi's mirror light landed on the left side of the mountain ridge, as if the three of them were standing on top of the mountain ridge. At the same time, as Xiong Yi's technique entered, there were actually some whistling sounds coming from the mirror. Oh! Xiao Hua was surprised, and asked curiously, "Xiong Yi, your mirror technique can actually send sound over?" Hehe, master was wrong. Xiong Yi laughed. "Of course the mirror technique can't send sound over, but Disciple has already received the news and placed some magical equipment here. So that's how it is." Xiao Hua laughed. So this old man was thinking too much. But, on this mountain ridge, what kind of show is there to watch? Li Xiong was a little confused. When Li Xiong said this, Xiao Hua was stunned again. He looked at Li Xiong and said, "Fellow Daoist Li, don't tell me that even you don't know about this excitement." "Of course I don't know." Li Xiong smiled bitterly. "After fellow Daoist Xiong came, he was the one in charge, and I never asked. Moreover, to tell you the truth, I am not particularly proficient in these mundane affairs." "Sure. Master, he's here." Xiong Yi, who had been staring at the mirror, hurriedly pointed and shouted, "Let's not talk. Disciple's technique is not necessarily reliable." Xiao Hua nodded and looked up, only to see a skinny old man wearing a new Daoist robe flying over from the east side of the mountain range. On this old man's skinny face, two turbid eyes flashed with a trace of cunning. On his shriveled lips, two slightly white mustaches drooped down from the corner of his mouth like a mouse's tail. At this moment, the old man was pinching his mustache as he flew, and his face was filled with pride. Wasn't this old man Xiao Jian? Seeing Xiao Jian appear, Xiao Hua was not surprised, but he felt a wave of disgust in his heart. Wasn't Xiao Jian's current appearance the same as the legendary scene of a villain intoxicated by success? This fellow's advancement is not bad either. He has actually recovered to the early stage of the Foundation establishment. Looking at Xiao Jian's flying speed, Xiao Hua secretly cursed, "What a pity. This old man's spirit pills are truly a waste." This is Yuan Ya. When Xiao Hua's gaze landed on the west side of the mirror and saw the person's face clearly, he unconsciously felt a storm in his heart and almost cried out in alarm. He thought of Xiao Jian, and at the same time, he thought of many people, and even thought of Qin Xiaoyao. However, he had never been to the abyss. Xiao Hua's gaze swept across Xiong Yi, and Xiong Yi nodded at him, indicating that this was the show he wanted to watch. Xiao Hua sighed slightly. He unconsciously straightened his body, pricked up his ears, and focused all his attention on the mirror. He really wanted to know what had happened in Jiang country in the years that he had not been here, and what had happened between Xiao Jian and Yuan Ya. Xiao Jian and Yuan Ya naturally didn't know that Xiao Hua and the other two nascent soul realm cultivators were hiding in midair. Although Yuan Ya was standing on a green leopard, his attire was different from before. The black armor on his body seemed to fit him very well. There were faint traces of light on the armor, and within those traces, there were layers of blood. Clearly, Yuan Ya had killed countless generals of the Copper Pillar State. However, the demonic hammer in Yuan Ya's hand did not change, the vigilance in his handsome eyes did not change, and the faint worry between his brows did not change either. It was as if that worry had been born since he saw Dia Wu, and it had become even more obvious today. Ya. Without waiting for the green leopard to fly closer, Xiao Jian coldly called out, "Do you want to go against your master?" Yuan Ya urged the green leopard to land in front of Xiao Jian. He bowed and said, Master, this disciple is not going against Master, it is. Master is forcing this disciple. How did this old man force you? Xiao Jian's tone was extremely cold. You were picked up by this old man from the arena, your life was originally this old man's, and this old man doesn't want your life now, as long as you leave Jiangguo. What kind of coercion is this? If you make this old man angry, I will take your life. Master. Yuan Yue was not angry, but his eyes narrowed. He said, You are forcing me to leave Jiang country, forcing me to leave Dia Wu, are you not taking my life? Yue. Xiao Jian spoke. This old man has heard your story at least 80 times, if not 100. The Dia Wu you speak of is not the princess of Changling. And didn't the princess of Changling say it clearly? She has never been to the Xian Yarrow Dark Forest. Do not forget, she is the princess of Jiang country. How could she have ended up in the Xian Yarrow Dark Forest? You should wake up. All right. Yuan Yue bit his lips and nodded. Since the princess of Changling does not admit that she is Dia Wu, this disciple will not think more. Actually, when Elder Xiao was still at Black Wind Ridge, this disciple had already said in front of him that I only treat Dia Wu as the princess of Changling, that I can only protect her safety, let her recover her country, and get what she deserves. This disciple will not think otherwise. Master, it is rare, is this not enough? Why must you force this disciple to leave Jiang country? -13. Chapter 3804. A cold smile appeared on Xiao Jian's face as he scolded, Yuan Yue, don't think this old man does not know what you are thinking. You are only interested in the identity of the Changling princess and forced the identity of Dia Wu onto the Changling princess. You just want to use the Changling princess to achieve your goals. Yuan Yue stilled slightly. He looked at Xiao Jian and said with a grimace, Master, do you not know this disciple's personality? This disciple was born in the Black Jade Dark Forest and has been with wolves since young. This disciple does not covet the worldly fame and wealth. This disciple only wants to protect the Changling princess, a bastard child that even his parents disdain, a bastard child that grew up drinking the milk of wild beasts. You want to covet the Changling princess? Xiao Jian snarled. This old man is really blind. How did I save you from the fighting arena that day? I should have let you die there. Hearing Xiao Jian's vicious words, Yuan Yue's eyes flashed with anger, but it disappeared in a moment. He lowered his head and said, No matter what Master says, this disciple was invited by Master to come today to ask Master to take back his orders and not chase this disciple out of Jiang country. When did this old man invite you? Xiao Jian sneered. I did not expect that after so many years in the mortal world, you know how to scheme. Don't tell me that you did not invite this old man today because you knew of that matter. You want to settle things with this old man. Now, in front of this old man, you are so wronged, as though this old man wants you to leave, to frame you. Master. Yuan Yue was slightly stunned, but Xiao Jian didn't allow him to say anything. He waved his hand and took out a red invitation card. He waved it in the air and said, This old man originally wanted to leave you some face and didn't want to tear apart our relationship as master and disciple. Since you do not want to leave and do not state the matter clearly and want to ruin this old man's plans, then, this old man will not be polite. This is the invitation card for this old man's wedding with the Changling princess. If you want to come, 10 days later. What? Similarly, before Xiao Jian could finish speaking, Yuan Yue's entire body trembled as he cried out in disbelief. You want to marry Dia Wu? Yuan Yue, you understand. This old man is marrying the Changling princess, not Dia Wu. If this old man marries the Changling princess, this old man will be the ruler of Jiang country. And the princess of Changling is the queen of Jiang country. Xiao Jian sneered and waved his hand. The invitation flew towards Yuan Yue. However, just as the invitation flew out, Xiao Jian mocked, Oh, this old man forgot. How could a bastard who grew up in the wilderness be literate? This invitation, you won't be able to understand it. Roar. Suddenly, Yuan Yue raised his head and let out a long roar. A ferocious aura surged from his body. His eyes were even more ferocious than those of a beast as he swept his gaze over Xiao Jian. The devil hammer in his left hand swung and hit the invitation card that was flying towards him. The thin invitation card was actually shattered by the demonic hammer, turning into broken butterflies, just like Yuan Ya's broken heart. "I'm going to kill you." Yuan Ya looked at Xiao Jian and said word by word. His face was even more ferocious than a wild wolf's. Xiao Jian was startled when Yuan Ya's gaze swept over him. However, when he saw the demonic hammer in Yuan Ya's hand, he smiled and said, "What?" Had he finally spoken his mind? "Didn't you come with the demonic hammer today to end things with this old man?" Actually, this old man really didn't want to tell you the news of my marriage with the princess of Changling. However, you didn't leave. Then this old man can only end things with you. As he spoke, Xiao Jian slapped his hand. A magic artifact that looked like a plate appeared in his hand. As his power surged, the plate gave off a blue light. "Whoever dares to steal my dear Wu, I will take their life." The princess of Changling had always been seen as dear Wu by Yuan Ya. He had never thought of dear Wu marrying someone else. Especially, he had never thought that his master would marry dear Wu. At this moment, the ferocity that had been hidden for a long time completely erupted. He did not hide the killing intent in his heart. "Kill." Yuan Ya urged the green leopard to charge at Xiao Jian with the demonic hammer. "Since you want to die, this old man will fulfill your wish." Xiao Jian smiled coldly. He formed a seal with his hands, and a thin beam of light gushed out from the plate. Following Xiao Jian's seal, it was like a flying sword, stabbing toward Yuan Ya's heart. Seeing the pillar of light reach him, Yuan Ya swung the demonic hammer to meet it. However, just as the demonic hammer moved, Yuan Ya's arm trembled slightly and he put the demonic hammer away. Pfff. The pillar of light pierced Yuan Ya's armor like a sword. The blood-stained armor could not block the pillar of light at all. It pierced right through his chest. Blood immediately gushed out like a fountain and dyed the armor red. "Master, you saved this disciple from the arena. This disciple will not retaliate against this attack. Take it as me returning a life to you." Yuan Ya's eyes were red as he stared at Xiao Jian. Although his eyes were burning with anger, he still said each word clearly. "Who wants you to return it?" Xiao Jian was furious. "This old man saved you because I wanted you to be my guard. Just like this old man picked up a dog on the street." As he spoke, another pillar of light rushed out from the magic tool. This time, it was twice as big as the previous one. Seeing the beam of light mercilessly heading towards his head, Yuan Ya stepped on the green leopard. The green leopard let out a low roar and charged forward. Pu. Yuan Ya barely managed to dodge the beam of light, but the beam of light once again pierced his arm. With a light cracking sound, Yuan Ya's arm weakly drooped down, and at the same time, blood gushed out. "Xiao Jian." Yuan Ya roared like a trapped beast. "After you saved me from the arena, you accepted me as your disciple. Although you yourself know that you are not my real master, since you and I have a master-disciple relationship, then I can't retaliate against this attack. From now on, you and I are strangers. Damn it. Damn it. Damn it." Xiao Jian did not expect Yuan Ya to not retaliate twice in a row. If he had known this earlier, why would he have used a feint? Wouldn't he have directly used the magic tool to kill Yuan Ya here? Xiao Hua was furious. He waved his hand and the disc emitted a dazzling brilliance. The edge of the disc seemed to have a sharp blade. It drew an arc in the air and flew towards Yuan Ya's neck. Roar! Yuan Ya roared and waved the demonic hammer with one arm. A strong wind blew towards the disc. Boom! An earth-shattering sound was heard. The disc collided with the demonic hammer. Yuan Ya's body was sent flying by the huge impact. The green leopard also trembled. It hurriedly urged the demonic cloud to chase after Yuan Ya. One man and one beast flew for a few feet before Yuan Ya could regain his balance and land on the green leopard. Looking at his body, more blood flowed from the wounds that were not bandaged. Now, it was all over his body and even dripped down his armor. Although Yuan Ya was in a sorry state, Xiao Jian was not much better. Xiao Jian did not expect Yuan Ya, who did not have any spiritual energy, to be able to use a normal hammer technique in battle to the point of perfection and easily hit his magic tool. He also did not expect Yuan Ye's strength to be strong enough to compete with his own spiritual energy. Therefore, when the magic tool was hit by the demonic hammer, the spiritual energy in the magic tool backfired. Xiao Jian's body trembled rapidly and the not-so-pure true essence in his meridians was somewhat scattered. Kill. Xiao Jian urged his true essence and endured the slight tearing pain in his meridians. He raised his hand and pointed. Woo-woo. The disc-shaped magic tool let out a whimper and flew up like a sneak attack. It opened its poisonous fangs and flew towards the green leopard under Yuan Ya. Roar. The green leopard was shocked. It let out a low roar and hurriedly dodged. It even spat out a mouthful of demonic qi to block the magic tool. Wang. At this moment, a sinister smile appeared on Xiao Jian's face. He slapped his forehead with the back of his hand and the pressure of a foundation establishment cultivator smashed towards Yuan Ya and the green leopard like a mountain. Seeing that Xiao Jian was bullying the weak and actually using his pressure, Xiao Hua, who was in the pavilion, was furious. He cursed loudly and was about to move. Master. Xiongyi hurriedly stopped him. This is a grudge between Yuan Ya and Xiao Jian. Outsiders cannot interfere. Ari, indeed. Xiao Hua sighed. These two people can be considered to be my benefactor. Although Xiao Jian is narrow-minded, I cannot favor one and discriminate against the other. Master, don't worry. With disciple here, how could Yuan Ya be in danger? Xiongyi laughed. While they were talking, there was another change on the mountain ridge. The pressure of a foundation establishment cultivator was pressing down on Yuan Ya. Even Yuan Ya's usually straight waist was bent. However, Yuan Ya's body trembled. Puff puff. His armor was completely broken. As blood fell into the air, Yuan Ya waved his arm. The muscles on his body were like a horned dragon. An indescribable ferocious qi rushed out from his muscles and directly resisted the pressure. At the same time, with a roar, the devil hammer in his hand struck towards the sky. Boom! With a loud sound, the devil hammer carried the aura of a vicious beast and collided with Yuan Ya's pressure. It was as if two magic tools had collided, setting off a huge wave of air. Ah! Xiao Jian screamed. Blood seeped out of his 7 orifices. Moreover, his new daoist robe was also torn apart. Amidst the loud sound, there was another muffled sound. The demonic qi that the green leopard spat out was actually unable to completely block Xiao Jian's magic tool. The magic tool's sharp teeth slashed across the green leopard's front paws. The green leopard roared a few times and quickly fell down. This Xiao Jian is really too insidious. Xiongyi, who was watching from the side, couldn't help but curse. This bastard not only used his pressure, he also wanted to injure Yuan Ya's mount. Without a mount, how can Yuan Ya fight with Xiao Jian? Unfortunately, Xiongyi still underestimated Xiao Jian's viciousness. Seeing the magic tool injure the green leopard, Yuan Ya was also injured in the fight against the pressure. He had no choice but to fall down with the green leopard. Xiao Jian laughed sinisterly again. Yuan Ya, aren't you always thinking about Xiao Hua? Today, I'll let you die under Xiao Hua's talisman. As he spoke, Xiao Jian waved his hand and 2 fire talismans flew out from his hand. They flew like lightning towards Yuan Ya. When they were a few zhong away from Yuan Ya, boom! They turned into 2 fireballs and attacked Yuan Ya from the front and back. -13. Chapter 3805. Where did this guy get the fire talisman from? Xiao Hua was shocked and hurriedly released his divine sense, preparing to use the divine sense hammer to block the fire talisman. He clearly knew that with Yuan Ya's strength, it was impossible for him to block the fire talisman he refined. However, just as he released his divine sense, Yuan Ya's figure unexpectedly flew out of the fire talisman. Yuan Ya's wolf-like figure skillfully stepped on Xiao Hua's familiar footwork, dodging left and right amidst the explosive fire talisman. Big Dipper magical fist. Xiao Hua was dumbfounded. Wasn't Yuan Ya's movement in the fire the Big Dipper magical fist he usually practiced? You! How do you know how to fly? Seeing Yuan Ye jump in the air with the help of the impact of the fire talisman, Yuan Ye turned pale with fright. In particular, Yuan Ye was born in the forest, so his figure was extremely agile. In a moment, he was already close to Xiao Jian. Die! Since Yuan Ye had severed all ties with Xiao Jian, he would not be merciful. With a cold snort, he curled up his body and rushed towards Xiao Jian like a meteor with the help of the final explosion of the fire talisman. He waved the demonic hammer in his hand again, aiming for Xiao Jian's chest. Oh, so you don't know how to fly at all? Yuan Ye's last attack revealed his strength. Contempt once again appeared in Xiao Jian's eyes. After all, facing Yuan Ye who did not have the ability to fly, Xiao Jian was in an invincible position from the beginning. Seeing the demonic hammer coming, Xiao Jian cast a spell with both hands. Rays of light appeared and blocked in front of Xiao Jian like a shield. Then, he moved his body and prepared to put some distance between him and Yuan Ye. Pa pa pa. The demonic hammer rushed over and effortlessly broke Xiao Jian's spell, causing Xiao Jian to be shocked. Damn it, when did this brat become so strong? No wonder he has repeatedly performed meritorious deeds on the battlefield these past few years. Even this old man has a headache when facing him, let alone ordinary people. Just as Xiao Jian was shocked, Yuan Ye's figure began to stagnate and began to fall. Xiao Jian's mouth curled into a sneer. His figure stopped and he took a deep breath. The true essence in his meridians surged. His hands formed a spell, and dozens of tiny ice spikes slowly formed in his hands. The ice spikes flashed with a blue brilliance. Die! Xiao Jian's hands were about to wave as he grinned evilly. At the same time, Yuan Ye roared, Die! This sound was so loud that it caused Xiao Jian's body to tremble and the magic power he was using to slow down slightly. It was also at this moment that Yuan Ye's body suddenly flew up from the ground. He gathered all the strength in his body on one arm and the demonic hammer in his hand smashed towards Xiao Jian's chest like a meteor. Ah! Xiao Jian turned pale with fright, because this time, Yuan Ye was really flying. Moreover, he was extremely close to Yuan Ye. When the demonic hammer struck, that suffocating force had already pressed down on his chest. Xiao Jian cried out in alarm. Seeing that it was not easy for him to dodge the demonic hammer and that Yuan Ye was already in front of the icicle, a look of madness appeared in his eyes. As he tried his best to dodge, the icicle in his hand shot out. Pu! The demonic hammer hit Xiao Jian's left chest. With a muffled sound, his entire collarbone and arm immediately collapsed. Xiao Jian was in so much pain that he almost fainted. At the same time, Pu pu pu. Several thin sounds rang out. Half of the dozen icicles nailed into Yuan Ye's body. Some of the icicles pierced through his body, while others pierced deeply into his flesh. Yuan Ye was already losing some blood. At this moment, he let out a blood-curdling scream as he fell from the sky. Xiao Jian forcefully endured the pain. His uninjured hand touched the small Qiankuan bag. This small Qiankuan bag contained the elixir refined by Xiao Hua. Xiao Jian understood that as long as he took the elixir, his life would not be in danger. However, just as he touched the small Qiankuan bag, he suddenly felt a sharp pain in his abdomen. Following that, a layer of death aura flashed across his face. Xiao Jian did not even make a sound as his entire body fell from the sky after Yuan Ye. Roar! On the mountain ridge, the green leopard, whose flesh had been torn apart by the fire talisman, let out a low roar. It flew into the air and barely managed to catch Yuan Ye before slowly descending. When Yuan Ye came down from the green leopard's body, Pu! Xiao Jian's corpse and the demonic hammer also fell, falling right in front of Yuan Ye. Yuan Ye's body was covered in blood. The blood red in his eyes had already faded. He stared at Xiao Jian for a moment, then bent down and picked up the demonic hammer with difficulty. Finally, he looked at Xiao Jian, who seemed to have died with his eyes wide open. With each step, he left behind a trail of blood as he slowly walked down the mountain ridge. Kill him, quick, kill him. Just as Xiao Jian walked down the mountain ridge, a group of people suddenly rushed over from below the mountain ridge. The first was a middle-aged man, holding a flying sword in his hand, he shouted, Yuan Ye actually dared to kill Prince Xiao, he is going to rebel against Jiang country. We must tear him into 10,000 pieces. Liu Bingzhen, do you want to kill me? Yuan Ye's vision was a little blurry as he looked at the middle-aged man in front of him and asked indifferently. That's right, Prince Xiao is the king of my Jiang country, and also my savior. If you kill Prince Xiao, you will be going against my Jiang country, and you will be a traitor. Naturally, I will take revenge for Prince Xiao. Liu Bingzhen shouted, however, since you are seriously injured, I will not make things difficult for you. Let my subordinates take your life. Ha ha, who dares to kill me? Yuan Ye stood there, and after laughing, he suddenly roared. His voice was like a bolt from the blue, shocking everyone, and no one dared to make a move. Who dares to kill me? Yuan Ye waved his magic hammer again and shouted loudly. This unparalleled aura was truly terrifying, and no one dared to speak. Who dares to kill me? Although Yuan Ye shouted once again, his voice shaking the mountain ridge, his body was already swaying. The wounds on his body were bleeding profusely, and behind him, a trail of blood followed his feet all the way to the top of the mountain ridge. Phut. Although no one dared to reply, Yuan Ye's body also fell to the ground after the magic hammer powerlessly fell. This. Liu Bingzhen looked at Yuan Ye who had fallen to the ground and hesitated. At this time, behind Liu Bingzhen and the others, dozens of Dao soldiers flew over in a hurry, but the person in front of them was Qin Xiaoyao. How dare you, Liu Bingzhen? Seeing Yuan Ye's miserable state, Qin Xiaoyao was enraged and shouted, You dare to injure my Jiang country's great general? Senior brother Qin. Seeing Qin Xiaoyao flying over, Liu Bingzhen anxiously retreated a few meters and shouted, General Yuan Ye was not injured by me, he was injured by fighting with the town king. What? Town king? Qin Xiaoyao was even more shocked. He raised his head to look at the source of the blood, and when he saw Xiao Jian's corpse, Qin Xiaoyao's face turned pale white. He did not even think of releasing his spiritual will, and flew towards the mountain ridge. When Qin Xiaoyao landed on the ground and inspected the corpse, he was completely dumbfounded. Xiao Jian was indeed deader than dead. A moment later, he turned his head to look at the place where Yuan Ye had fainted. He didn't know what to do. In the blink of an eye, the town king was killed and the great general fainted. The princess's imperial decree has arrived. Just as Qin Xiaoyao was at a loss, a sharp voice came from afar. The sound of horse hooves could be heard, and a female official dressed in palace attire came over with an imperial decree in her hand. Qin Xiaoyao and the others did not dare to be negligent. They all bowed, only to see the female official jumping down from her horse, opening up the imperial decree. Xiao Jian, Yuan Ye barged into the imperial tutor's garden to duel, and injured the national body of my Jiang country. Yes. Liu Bingzhen bowed and stepped forward, preparing to receive the imperial decree. Die. Dear Wu. Yuan Ye quickly woke up, and stood up from the ground with difficulty. His eyes were wide open, and looking at the imperial decree, he said softly, Are you going to kill me? This is a fake imperial decree. Qin Xiaoyao roared, the Chongling princess will definitely not give such an imperial decree. Disciples, take this person down, and follow me to see the princess. How dare you? The female official shouted, and handed the imperial decree to Qin Xiaoyao with both hands, and shouted, General Qin, take a look yourself, is this handwriting and the national seal fake? Qin Xiaoyao took it and looked at it carefully. With a shake of his hand, the imperial decree landed in the dust, and he sneered, even if the handwriting and the national seal are not fake, then I, Qin, do not believe that this is the imperial decree of the princess. Are you rebelling? The female official screamed, Where are the imperial guards? They are. Suddenly, there was a loud voice behind everyone, and they saw rows of Dao soldiers holding Zhu immortal crossbows and god-killing bows, surrounding Qin Xiaoyao and the others in the center. Damn it! Qin Xiaoyao's expression changed greatly. Looking at Granny Ji behind the Dao soldiers, he seemed to understand something. All of you, surrender yourselves. Granny Ji said coldly, This is the princess's decree. You have disobeyed the imperial decree, and committed a great mistake. If you obey the imperial decree, this old one can still protect General Qin from death. Ha ha, Granny Ji, who gave you the courage to do that? Are you not afraid that Li Shushu will know about this and come from Blackwind Ridge? Are you not afraid that Xiao Zhenren will come back from Yaotai Mountain? Haha, you are the one who is bold. Granny Ji sneered. Blackwind Ridge has been besieged by Confucian cultivators for many years. Does Li Shushu have the time to come to Jiang country? Xiao Hua's cultivation is strong, but he went to Yaotai Mountain and did not come back. Did you not hear the blood on Yaotai Mountain? He has not come back yet. Do you think he can still come back? Disciples. Qin Xiaoyaro waved his hand. I have previously betrayed Jiang country, and have been trying my best to make up for my mistakes. Now it is just like the old saying, the bow is hidden after the birds are gone, and the hound is cooked after the cunning rabbit. Xiao Jian and Yuanya have great achievements, and they have already fallen into their trap. What are we waiting for? Kill. The Fortune Gate disciples behind Qin Xiaoyaro shouted loudly, ready to rush out. Get ready. Granny Ji's face was cold, and she raised her hand, about to give the order. Who said this old man can't come to Jiang country? Suddenly, a faint voice sounded in the air, and Li Shushu's figure came from the distance. Li. Spiritual Master Li? Granny Ji was shocked, but her panic only lasted for a moment. -13. Chapter 3806. What? This old man is not the imperial tutor of Jiang country now, but you have such a big move without discussing it with this old man? Li Xiong looked in the direction of Granny Ji, but his gaze went past Granny Ji and the Dao soldiers to a pavilion in the distance. Don't you think so, Princess of Changling? Dear Wu, dear Wu. Yuan Ya, who was on the verge of collapse, looked ashen at the pavilion. Qin Xiaoyaro saw Li Xiong come over, first stilled, then was overjoyed. He hurried to Yuan Ya's side, supported him, and took out a pill for him to take. But Yuan Ya waved his hand, and the pill fell to the ground. His eyes were fixed on the pavilion, as though he had died with a grievance. As expected, the Changling princess slowly flew out of the pavilion, her face solemn and dignified. Greetings, Your Highness. Liu Bingzhen and the others hurriedly bowed, while Qin Xiaoyaro looked coldly, motionless. Zhenren Li. The Changling princess did not fly close, and said from a distance, this is the internal affairs of Jiang country. Zhenren is not the imperial tutor of Jiang country, please do not interfere. Yen, of course this old man is not the imperial tutor of Jiang country. Li Xiong nodded. But this old man was entrusted by Zhenren Xiao to guard Blackwind Ridge, and help you build Jiang country. This old man has the right to ask you. Ha ha ha, Zhenren Xiao wants to help my Jiang country restore? This is a joke. The Changling princess laughed to the sky. Previously, Aijia did not understand people's hearts, and only felt that everyone was good, especially Zhenren Xiao who saved Aijia in danger. Aijia entrusted everything to Zhenren Xiao, and the great wish of restoring the country to Zhenren Xiao. But look, Zhenren Li, do you know what kind of person Zhenren Xiao sent Aijia is? This Xiao Jian forced Aijia to marry him, isn't it because he covets the throne of Jiang country? And for the throne, he fought with his own disciple. Look at this General Yuan Ya, when he saw Aijia, he called Aijia his dear Wu. If Aijia was not the princess of Changling, would he do this? Would he make such a moving story? Dear Wu, do you really think so? Yuan Ya's body swayed as he spoke with difficulty. There were tears of blood in his eyes. But the Changling princess ignored him and said to Li Xiong, since Aijia has said so much, I am not afraid to say more. Zhenren Li is an open and above-board person. He has kept Zhenren Xiao's trust. But have you ever thought about whether Zhenren Xiao really wants to restore my country? Oh, why can't he? Li Xiong frowned, puzzled. If he doesn't want to, why would he do so much for you? Daoist Master Xiao is only pretending to establish a country for my Jiang country. In reality, he wants to establish his own Xiao country, the Changling princess said coldly. How is that possible? Li Xiong was really surprised. Hehe, Zhenren Li, listen to me, the Changling princess said with a smile. That day on Blackwind Ridge, when Xiao Hua killed the Copper Pillar State Preceptor, he said, Xiao is the beginning. Zhenren Li, Tell me, what is Xiao Sheshe? Wasn't it just to establish the Xiao Empire? This is 1. Zhenren Xiao established the Fortune Gate at Blackwind Ridge. Isn't he going against my Jiang country's royal family? The previous imperial preceptor never established his own sect, right? This is the 2nd. Zhenren Xiao not only established the Fortune Gate, but also forbade the disciples of the Fortune Gate from entering politics. Isn't he just trying to separate his disciples from the Jiang country's imperial preceptor, and take over my Jiang country's royal family? This is the 3rd. Zhenren Xiao said that he did not take my Jiang country's offerings. Then, what benefits does he get from helping Ijia restore my country? If Zhenren Li thinks carefully, doesn't Zhenren Xiao want to use Ijia as an excuse to first use Jiang country, and then establish Xiao country? This is the 4th. There is also the 5th. Since Zhenren Xiao took the Copper Pillar State's 5-dragon jade seal, he should give it to Ijia to manage and use. Why didn't he take it out? Isn't it because he wants to establish his own country? There is a 6th. Li Xiong asked with interest. Of course. The Changling princess gritted her teeth and said, it has been several years since the Jade Pavilion meeting. If Zhenren Xiao took the imperial preceptor's lot, why hasn't he returned? My Jiang country has not been able to establish a country because we are waiting for the imperial preceptor's lot. If Zhenren Xiao does not have any other intentions, Ijia will be the first to not believe it. A man who is never content is like a snake trying to swallow an elephant. Li Xiong shook his head slightly. Zhenren Xiao has done so much for you. If he listens to you, he will be disappointed. Even this Li feels it is not worth it for Zhenren Xiao. Fine, since we do not agree, then this Li will not say more. Today, Her Highness the Princess has issued an imperial decree. This Li and Jiang country have broken all ties. Since Zhenren Li has come to Jiang country, do not leave for now. The Changling princess smiled slightly. Ijia still has a place to borrow Zhenren. Li Xiong's expression changed slightly. His gaze was like lightning as he looked at the Changling princess. He asked in disbelief, You still have designs on the energy stone mines of Blackwind Ridge? What? That belongs to my Jiang country. Is it wrong for Ijia to take it back? The Changling princess asked. Haha, Changling princess. You are too greedy. Do you know what you are saying? This old man really does not know what basis you have to dare to say this to this old man. Li Xiong roared with laughter. Of course a Changling princess does not dare to say it, but this king can say it. Just as Li Xiong was laughing, another middle-aged man walked out of the pavilion that the Changling princess had flown out of. This middle-aged man wore a purple gold crown and a 3-clawed gold dragon king robe. His slender figure looked like jade, graceful and noble. This person flew out of the pavilion and slowly flew towards the Changling princess on a cloud, his face indifferent. Hai Tian. When did your Jiao country come to Jiang country to join in the fun? When Li Xiong saw this man, his expression was shocked. He had not thought that the Jiao country would interfere. Yes, this person was Hai Tian, Prince of Jiao, the one that Xiao Hua had seen at the secret auction. What is strange about this king's appearance? Hai Tian smiled faintly, like a spring breeze, making people involuntarily submit to him. The so-called Jiang country has yet to be established, and this capital city is a city without a master. This king came to take a look. It won't hinder anyone, right? It's fine if it's not a hindrance, but if it's a hindrance, then it's best not to come. Li Xiong narrowed his eyes and said coldly. Actually, at this time, how could he not know that the twists and turns were all caused by the Jiao country? Haha, fellow immortal Li is right. Hai Tian laughed. It's fine if it's not a hindrance, but if it's a hindrance, then it's best not to come. Since you're here, and you're in the way, then it's best not to go back. Li Xiong nodded. Prince Hai Tian clearly wants to interfere in the matters of Jiang country, and clearly has the intention to get involved in Blackwind Ridge. Of course, of course. Hai Tian did not hesitate to reveal his ambition. This king has always wanted to see the strength of Blackwind Ridge, but the tortoise shell formation of Blackwind Ridge is really powerful. This king knows that he does not have the ability to break that formation. Since fellow immortal Li has come today, then don't go back. Li Xiong laughed. I understand. All of this. It was all bait, just to lure me into it. So I am the big fish that the prince wants to catch. Yes, in the entire country of Jiang, only fellow immortal Li is worthy of my attention. Otherwise, how could I come here personally? Hai Tian nodded and replied. You want to capture me with just your strength? Li Xiong sneered. Aren't you afraid of a life and death struggle? This king naturally doesn't need to worry before the destruction of Jiang country. Hai Tian rubbed his nose. His posture was very carefree, but the current me is far from the Hai Tian that fellow immortal Li has seen before. As he spoke, Hai Tian's body flashed with Buddhist light, and streams of mind power surged from his body. As Hai Tian formed a Buddhist seal with his hand, a Buddhist protector's Vajra image slowly appeared on the surface of Hai Tian's body. Hiss. Sensing Hai Tian's Buddhist protector's divine ability, Li Xiong's expression changed slightly. He understood in his heart that with his early nascent soul stage cultivation, he really wasn't a match for Hai Tian. Fellow immortal Li. Hai Tian raised his neck and said, This king still advises you, don't tear your face too much. Your Li country and my Jiusa country can be considered allies in the early years, and have long since had some feelings of incense. If you are willing to submit, this king doesn't mind speaking in front of my Jiusa country's king. Heh. Not waiting for Hai Tian to finish speaking, a sneer came from about 10 zhong to Li Xiong's right. Amidst the runes in the air, Xiao Hua's figure gradually appeared. So what if we tear apart all our faces? What? Hai Tian, are you going to bite me? Daoist Master Xiao. Hearing Xiao Hua's voice, Qin Xiaoyao's face lit up. When Xiao Hua's figure appeared, he couldn't help but shout, Daoist Master is back. Daoist Master Xiao is back. Daoist Master Xiao is back. The hearts and livers of the Fortune Gate's disciples had been tormented several times and were somewhat numb. Now that they had come back from death's door, seeing Xiao Hua return, they couldn't help but cheer. Even the previously indifferent Changling princess and the indifferent Granny Ji's faces instantly changed. Yuan Wei. As soon as Xiao Hua appeared, other than saying this to Hai Tian, he opened his mouth and scolded, You useless thing, hurry up and take the pill. Your grandmother, haven't you heard of that saying? There are plenty of fish in the sea. You are the dignified descendant of the Wolf King from the Wolf Valley. How can you be bewitched by this vulgar and beautiful woman of the secular world? You are just the daughter of a fallen country's king. What is so great about you? In the future, this old man will find you an immortal palace maid. Daoist Master. Yuan Ya, who had been robbed by the ruthless secular and cold profiteer, couldn't help but cry out when he heard Xiao Hua's scolding, which was more warm than any kind of warm words. It seemed that blood-red tears flowed from his eyes that had never shed tears before. Daoist Master said, Ya, quickly take the pill. Qin Xiaoyao hurriedly sent the pill to Yuan Ya's mouth. This was personally refined by Daoist Master. -13. Chapter 3807. The stubborn Yuan Ya was now as obedient as a 3-year-old child. After taking the pill, his body, which was barely holding on, went limp and fell on Qin Xiaoyao's body. Ha ha, wonderful, wonderful. Hai Tian didn't seem to be angry at Xiao Hua's words, nor was he surprised by the Fortune Gate disciples' cheers. He only laughed and clapped his hands, his voice echoing in the air like a giant. This old man thought I had caught a big fish. I didn't expect Daoist Xiao to walk right into my trap. This king is really happy. Daoist Xiao, we meet again. Do you know how much effort this king has spent to find your whereabouts? This old man is not Fairy Xiongfeng. I'm not interested in men. Xiao Hua curled his lips. If you want to find her, this old man will give you a communication talisman. Fairy Xiongfeng? Hai Tian was stunned, as if he didn't understand, but he didn't care, and laughed. This king is very curious. Xiao Hua, that day at the secret auction, this king saw you with the 100 Flowers Valley's princess. At that time, your cultivation seemed very ordinary. How come after the secret auction, you met the light beast, and your cultivation improved by leaps and bounds? Could it be that the 1000 demons sacred ground really has a demon fruit that can increase the cultivation of human cultivators? Why should this old man tell you? If you want, You can kneel and lick the light beast. Xiao Hua stroked his chin, looked at Hai Tian with a smile, and asked with interest, "This old man has already appeared, you're actually not afraid at all, could it be that you still have a backup plan?" "Hehe, you actually saw through it." Hai Tian laughed, "This king wanted to give you a surprise, but since you don't like surprises, I'll let you see now." As he spoke, a series of Buddhist chants sounded in the air. Amitabha. For old monks in monks' robes flew over with Buddhist weapons in their hands. Each of the old monks' bodies flashed with a strong Buddhist light. Hiss. Xiao Hua sent an emoji of sucking in a breath of cold air as he exclaimed in astonishment. When did the Jiaosa country have 4th level elemental power? State preceptors? Haha, ignorant fools. Hai Tian laughed and mocked. How can a barren mountain like you know the foundation of my Jiaosa country? It's fine if you lied to Changling and Li Xiong, but you dare to show off in front of my Jiaosa country? You dare to go to Yarutai Mountain with your little cultivation? In this king's opinion, you're hiding on the side cultivating? Damn, when did this old man lie? Xiao Hua was speechless. Looking at Hai Tian, he said, "This old man killed Lung Chinga at Black Mountain, and forced Yang Jijin, was all fake? Do you think this old man doesn't even have the courage to go to Yarutai Mountain? Bronze Pillar State is nothing." Hai Tian sneered. A tiny country of Confucian cultivators was actually forced into a mess by a rogue Daoist cultivator. Jiang Jiang Jiang, Jiang Jiang. Yaya you. At this time, this king will not hide it from you. If you had not interfered at Black Mountain, Changling would not have been able to charge into my Jiaosa country's territory. Otherwise, my Jiaosa country would have destroyed Tongzhou long ago. Ha ha ha. Suddenly, Xiao Hua seemed to think of something and laughed. Changling? Changling? Hai Tian, don't you feel you are too close? Do you have some secret you are hiding? Is the baby girl that was lost in the Xian Yarrow dark forest decades ago not the daughter of the king of Jiang country? Hai Tian stilled slightly, a hint of shock in his eyes. Why? Xiao Hua said with a smile, "This old man will tell you, the baby girl you adopted in the Xian Yarrow dark forest is this Changling princess in front of you. However, she is not some princess of Jiang country. That princess of Jiang country must have died in the hands of Jiaosa country long ago, and she is just a fake. As to why she was placed in the Xian Yarrow dark forest, I think he was afraid there was a problem with her bloodline, so he wanted to use beast poison to cover it up. Coincidentally, you saved her from the side. This was out of the calculations of this prince of Tongzhou. However, your appearance allowed his scheme to flow more smoothly, and the king of Jiang country could not see any traces. As to the fake Changling princess's Granny Ji, if I am not wrong, she is the culprit who stole the real Changling princess back then, and a member of the Buddhist sect of Jiaosa country. Granny Ji, what do you think of this old man's guess? When Granny Ji escaped from danger at Black Mountain Range, she once called Amitabha. You must have forgotten. In the distance, Granny Ji's expression changed slightly, but she still did not speak. Oh, and that Zun. Ya, quickly throw it away. In this old man's opinion, if it is not a token Hai Tian used to find the Changling princess, then it is a token he will use when he goes deep into Jiang country to save the Changling princess. But you took it away, and he miscalculated. Hearing Xiao Hua's words, Yuan Ya took out the Zun with trembling hands. He looked deeply at the woman he had raised in the distance. As though he had abandoned everything in his heart, he casually threw it on the ground. This world had hurt him too deeply. Also, Hai Tian, I think that when the Changling princess met this old man, she did not know of her past. Xiao Hua turned to look at Hai Tian and asked. When she heard Yuan Ya's question, she went back to ask Granny Ji. Granny Ji then told her the reason. However, this old man is curious. Even if the Changling princess knew of her past, there was this old man and Black Mountain Range. Even if she did not admit it, she could still be the ruler of a country. Why did she have to listen to your arrangements? Hai Tian smiled. He pointed at the Zun on the ground and said, that Zun is Bunwang's beloved item. It was given to Bunwang's beloved consort. Oh, the ancients say, one cannot trap a wolf without sacrificing a child. The Grand Prince is really willing to let his child experience life and death. Xiao Hua immediately realized, but then he sneered. This kind of lie is enough to fool a child. Now that you mention it, you really underestimate our experience. Since you are Bunwang's descendant, if you do not contribute, how can you enjoy the honor of a country? Hai Tian did not mind Xiao Hua's provocation. People like Xiao Jian who only want to take advantage by scheming will all become bubbles in the end. Xiong Yi, is this something you can think of? Suddenly, Xiao Hua shouted into the air. Ah! Hai Tian was shocked and looked in that direction in disbelief. There was a flash of light, and Xiong Yi's figure appeared. When he saw that Xiong Yi was only in the early stage of yuanying, Hai Tian sighed in relief. Master, this disciple, really did not think of it. Xiong Yi smiled bitterly and shook his head. This disciple only noticed Xiao Jian's movements and knew that he coveted the Changling princess and wanted to kill Yuan Ya. But this disciple really did not think that there was such a great hand behind the scenes. Otherwise, this disciple would not have invited Master and Li Shishu to come and watch the show. Hearing Xiong Yi's words, Hai Tian was even more shocked. Xiong Yi not only called Xiao Hua Master, but also said that other than Xiao Hua and the other two yuanying, Black Wind Ridge seemed to have other yuanying cultivators. Also, Xiong Yi had time to go to Black Wind Ridge to ask for reinforcements, but Xiao Hua did not let him go. Either someone had already returned, or Xiao Hua had the intent to kill. Of course, no matter what, this was somewhat out of Hai Tian's control. How could Hai Tian allow such a thing to happen? He roared, "Kill!" His body expanded again. With a wave of his hand, a crescent shovel appeared in his hand. Buddhist clouds formed under his feet as he attacked Xiao Hua. He. Xiao Hua sneered and shouted, "Li Xiong, Xiong Yi, you and the others block the old monk in the east." "Yes, master." Xiong Yi responded. He clapped his hands and used the hand of yuanying, grabbing at the old monk out of thin air. Xiong Yi moved. Li Xiong did not dare to be negligent. Seeing Xiong Yi use the hand of yuanying, he hesitated slightly and also waved his hand. An arm several jong long rushed out of his Daoist robe and grabbed at the old monk with Xiong Yi. Amitabha Buddha the old monk's expression did not change at all. He only chanted the name of Buddha and waved the demon-subduing pestle in his hand. The Buddhist light around his body flashed and turned into a demon-subduing Buddha. Thousands of chanting sounds rose and met the two Daoist yuanying hands. Looking at Xiao Hua again, after instructing Xiong Yi and Li Xiong, he held the wishful staff in his hand and smashed at Hai Tian's crescent shovel like lightning. Hai Tian had already seen Xiao Hua's amazing divine power. Now, he did not dare to be negligent. He urged his telekinesis and a faint sky dragon and white elephant were born on the crescent shovel. It was as if there was really the power of 9 dragons and 9 elephants, roaring and rushing to Xiao Hua. Clang! The two murderous weapons collided with a deafening sound. Hai Tian felt an unparalleled force coming from the crescent moon shovel. The celestial dragon and the white elephant in the light of Buddha were annihilated in an instant. His arms were numb, and his body flew backward involuntarily. The force rushed into his golden body of Buddha, and his entire golden body trembled rapidly, almost collapsing. "Grandma, this guy is really powerful, no wonder." Hai Tian was shocked and hurriedly tried to stabilize his golden body, but when he looked up at Xiao Hua, the scene in front of him made him completely stunned. Because Xiao Hua's figure had not transformed into a golden body before, at the moment when the wishful staff and the crescent moon shovel collided, Xiao Hua's figure actually borrowed the force to fly upside down. Like a bullet, he rushed to the left side of Hai Tian in a hurry. Just as Hai Tian was looking at him, Xiao Hua waved his arms. With a roar, his transcendence golden body appeared. Invisible star power surged into his transcendence golden body, and the transcendence golden body was instantly dozens of feet tall. It was more than twice the size of the old monk's Buddha statue. Moreover, the previously inconspicuous wishful staff had now turned into dozens of feet and was heavier than a mountain as it smashed towards the old monk. "Junior brother, don't worry, this old monk will help you." Hai Tian was surprised, and the old monks were even more surprised. The old monk closest to the old monk hurriedly shouted and waved his hand. A Buddhist staff turned into a dragon and roared towards Xiao Hua. -13. Chapter 3808. PFFF. What shocked everyone was that Xiao Hua suddenly opened his mouth and 9 sword beams shot out from his mouth. In the blink of an eye, they had arrived in front of the old monk. The strangest thing was that the 9 sword beams didn't seem to have any intention of blocking the monk's staff. Instead, they went around the monk's staff and turned into a huge sword that slashed towards the old monk. Boom! There was an even louder bang than before. The wishful steel staff hit the old monk's demon subduing pestle. Not only was the demon subduing pestle smashed into pieces, but the Buddha's light scattered in all directions. Even the huge wave of air blew the cultivators on the mountain ridge to the side. In particular, under the wishful steel staff, the old monk's golden Buddha statue was no match for it and instantly collapsed. How is this possible? Hai Tian was completely dumbfounded. Just now, Xiao Hua's wishful steel staff did not seem so powerful. This is a Buddhist protector with upper 4th grade elemental energy. Of course, Hai Tian did not know that Xiao Hua's staff had the power of the spiritual will hammer. Not to mention a Buddhist protector with upper 4th grade elemental energy, even a 5th grade elemental energy would not be able to escape from Xiao Hua's attack. This was not the end of Hai Tian's nightmare. Keng! Another loud sound rang out. The staff hit Xiao Hua, who did not want to dodge at all. Thousands of sparks splashed out from Xiao Hua's body. The staff returned to its original form, but Xiao Hua was not injured at all. How is this possible? Hai Tian groaned, feeling bad in his heart. Keng! Another loud sound rang out. The giant sword fell and the old monk's huge arm, which was not protected by a Buddhist weapon, was cut off. Blood flowed out from the severed arm like golden liquid. Not only that, the giant sword instantly turned into 9 stars and crazily stabbed at the gradually collapsing golden Buddha statue. It was more flexible than Xiao Hua's control. Don't hurt my senior brother. The third old monk just flew over and roared. He raised an arms bowl and a huge suction force tried to suck the 9 stars away. Gaga! A very strange voice appeared in the air. Old monk, you are I's dish, obediently come to the plate. Who is it? The old monk was shocked. He quickly scanned the area with his Buddhist sense, but at that moment, a 6-colored pillar of light suddenly appeared behind him and crashed into his golden Buddha statue at an incredibly fast speed. Boom. Right in front of Hai Tian's eyes, the Kunlun mirror's beam of light blasted a huge hole in the old monk's upper body. The old monk's golden Buddha statue collapsed rapidly. It seemed that he would not be able to survive. I've been tricked. Hai Tian suddenly came to a realization. Xiao Hua first fought with him, using him as bait to force the 3 monks to come to his rescue. And the moment he was defeated, Xiao Hua took out a method to stop the 3 monks. Under this attack, the 3 monks' lives were in danger. Let's go. Hai Tian made a prompt decision, urging his telekinesis to flee into the distance. Hai Tian, don't you think it's too late to leave now? Xiao Hua smiled coldly. He tossed his right hand and muttered an incantation. The soul execution yuan light immediately flew out from the sword gourd. Seeing something with a nose and eyes emerge from the sword gourd, Hai Tian's consciousness immediately blurred. He hurriedly slapped his forehead. Swish! A Buddhist lotus that was several feet in size appeared along with the Buddhist light, blocking the spirit-slaying origin light. Fall! Looking at the Buddhist lotus, Xiao Hua sneered. If he did not refine the soul execution yuan light from before, Hai Tian's protective Buddhist weapon might not be able to break through. However, after refining the essence of a strange beast's thigh, Xiao Hua had full confidence that it could break through the Buddhist weapon. Sure enough, following Xiao Hua's chanting of the incantation, Pu, the soul execution vital light rushed past the Buddha lotus, and the Buddha lotus shattered into pieces. The soul execution vital light precisely landed on Hai Tian's neck. The soul execution vital light flashed, and Hai Tian's head soared into the sky, and a mouthful of hot blood flew out. Namo Metria Buddha. After killing Hai Tian, Xiao Hua did not hesitate. He looked at the collapsed golden Buddha statue of the old monk and said, as the son of Buddha, you should strictly abide by the rules and precepts. As a Buddhist protector, You should subdue the devil and become Buddha. You used the power of Buddha to oppress the common people, you should be destroyed. Immediately after, the divine will hammer fell from the sky. Boom! The Buddhist protector who only had the strength of a 4th-grade essence force was smashed into a golden liquid. Ah! A blood-curdling scream came from not too far away. Under the 9 stars illuminating the sun, another old monk was also unable to escape from the Confucian cultivator Xiao Hua's flying sword. Who knew how many holes were pierced through his body, and he died on the spot. 3 monks and a prince were instantly killed by Xiao Hua alone. Not only was this shocking, even the last monk who was fighting with Xiong Yi and Li Xiong was flustered. 2 early nascent soul-stage Daoist cultivators were naturally not a match for him, a Buddhist protector who only had the strength of a 4th-grade essence force. However, it was not easy for him to kill the 2 of them. Especially since he had only fought a few rounds with the 2 of them, the outcome of the battle had already been decided. How could he remain calm? Unfortunately, before he could activate the Buddhist light to escape, the voice of the green-robed Xiao Hua came from above his head again. TSK, what a pity for a monk like Ming Quan. He actually didn't have a career. The monk was shocked. He did not hesitate to smash the demon-subduing pestle into the sky. However, what was extremely strange was that, boom! Under his body, the Kunlun mirror's beam of light flew out and instantly pierced through his golden body from bottom to top. The monk died with his eyes wide open. He did not even see the appearance of his opponent. Ha ha! The green-robed Xiao Hua laughed loudly. That strange laughter was everywhere in the mountain range. A simple diversion was actually used by him so skillfully. In the blink of an eye, he had killed 2 monks, which really made him excited. The laughter disappeared. Everyone still did not dare to believe it. That year, Xiao Hua fought Lung Chinga in front of the Black Wind mountain range. Although he also defeated many Confucian cultivators of the 4th level of origin power, that battle was so dangerous that Xiao Hua himself was seriously injured. And today, it was only a dozen years later. In the eyes of cultivators, that was not too long ago. Xiao Hua actually so easily killed 5 people who were almost at the same cultivation level. What kind of divine ability was this? Not to mention how much stronger his magic power was, just this method alone was too strange. However, what made Qin Xiaoyaro and the others feel familiar was that with a wave of Xiao Hua's hand, the Qianquan pouches on the 5 people's waists all fell into his hand. When he opened them to take a look, a familiar smile appeared on his face again. Master! Xiong Yi looked at Xiao Hua's divine ability, which was even more powerful than the one at the Jade Pavilion gathering. His eyes flashed with passion. He flew in front of Xiao Hua and bowed. How should we deal with this now? Master, please tell us. Xiao Hua stood in the air. He looked at Xiao Jian's corpse, and then at Yuan Yai's pale face. His thoughts were in a mess. These 2 were the first people he had encountered after coming to the hidden immortal continent. They had been so good master and disciple back then, but now they had fallen to such a state. Part of this was due to Hai Tian of Jiaosha. But if Xiao Jian did not have his own plans, and his desire to kill Yuan Ya, how could he have ended up like this? Why does it have to end with killing each time? Xiao Hua sighed. His gaze swept across the corpses of Hai Tian and the other Jiaosha cultivators. These people were too deeply involved in the mortal world, and could not compare to Ku Tutuo of the single Liang. In the end, Xiao Hua's gaze landed on the Changling princess. At this time, the Changling princess was as panicked as a quail. Her bloodless face had a pair of terrified eyes. She did not dare to meet Xiao Hua's gaze, and only secretly looked at Yuan Ya. Unfortunately, Yuan Ya had thrown his worldly ties to the ground with the Zun. The Changling princess's gaze was not as good as a leaf in the wind. Changling, Xiao Hua said coolly. This surprised the Changling princess. She did not have a blaming tone. Daoist Xiao. The Changling princess immediately realized and hurriedly knelt on the ground. She kowtowed and said, Ijia was bewitched by Hai Tian of Jiaosha. No need to say more. Xiao Hua waved his sleeve and stopped the Changling princess from speaking. He said, This old man heard your words just now. To say that this old man is disappointed is true. But this old man is also very happy. You allowed Yuan Ya to see human nature, and allowed him to take another step out of the black jade dark forest. This is better than anything else. Of course, the reasons you speak of are not this old man's original intentions. They are just your suspicions. You really are gauging the heart of a gentleman with the yardstick of a villain. Since this old man promised you, I will give it to you. As he spoke, Xiao Hua raised his hand and took out the imperial teacher's lot. He looked closely and grimaced. This old man risked my life to get the imperial teacher's lot. I really did not expect to fall to such a state. Daoist Li, this Xiao really regrets not listening to your advice. Xiao Hua looked at Li Xiong. Li Xiong looked at Xiao Hua with narrowed eyes and said with a smile, "Does Daoist really regret it?" "Haha, of course not." Xiao Hua laughed. "If this old man did not go, how could I know so much of the truth?" As he spoke, Xiao Hua decisively threw the imperial teacher's lot to the Changling princess and said, "The imperial teacher's lot is here. Revive Jiang country yourself." Clap. Seeing the imperial teacher's lot land not far from her head, the Changling princess bit her lips and thought of something. However, what she was thinking was not important. Xiao Hua waved his hand and said to Qin Xiaoyao, "Xiaoyao, all Fortune Gate disciples return to Blackwind Ridge. No one is allowed to stay in Jiang country." "Yes, old master." Qin Xiaoyao looked coldly at Liu Bingzhen and shouted, "Disciples, pass on old master's orders. We will return to Blackwind Ridge with old master." "Yes." The group of disciples raised their eyebrows and exhaled in relief. Then, they scattered in all directions. Seeing the disciples leave, Qin Xiaoyao supported Yuan Ya and flew into the air. He bowed and said, "Disciple greets old master." Xiaoyao, you did well." Xiao Hua smiled and said, "You are righteous in front of right and wrong, far better than before. Disciple does not deserve praise." Qin Xiaoyao hurriedly smiled. "It is all disciples' fault for not taking care of Yuan Ya and Xiao Jian. This is not your fault." Xiao Hua waved his hand. "How can you see the rainbow without going through the wind and rain? If not for today's matter, how could Yuan Ya enter this old man's sect?" Yuan Ya was really disheartened. Hearing Xiao Hua's words, he was shocked. "Senior Xiao, what did you say?" "Your grandmother, you secretly learned this old man's ultimate skill. Do you still want to escape from this old man's hands?" Xiao Hua reached out and slapped Yuan Ya's head. -13. Chapter 3809. Yuan Ya's eyes heated up and he was about to kneel in the air. Unfortunately, he was injured. After moving a few times, his mouth twitched in pain. However, as stubborn as Yuan Ya was, he still knelt there with difficulty and kowtowed 9 times in the air. Get up." Xiao Hua was very satisfied. He raised his hand and said, "I did not expect your talent to be good. Who taught you this flying skill?" Liu Ji tilde Yuan Ya did not dare to hide and hurriedly explained, "He was afraid this disciple would be injured in front of the 2 armies, so he secretly taught me." "Very good." Xiao Hua nodded. With a wave of his hand, the Pegasus and flying carriage landed in the air. He said, "Return to Blackwind Ridge with this old man." "Yes." Yuan Ya and Qin Xiaoyao agreed. When Xiao Hua and the others got on the flying carriage, the 2 also got on respectfully. The Pegasus raised its head and neighed. A milky white light streaked across the sky and quickly disappeared into the horizon. "Woo!" The Changling princess looked at the deathly silent imperial tutor park, and then looked at the dazed Liu Bingzhen and the others, and the Dao soldiers she had trained. Suddenly, she collapsed to the ground as though her bones had been pulled out. She started to cry bitterly. The tears fell on the ground, but they disappeared in an instant. It was very similar to what the Changling princess had lost in half a day. Everything was gained and lost in an instant. The Pegasus pulled the flying carriage out of Jiang country. After flying for a while, Xiongyi said in a low voice, "Master, wait a moment. This disciple has something to report to Master." "Oh, what is it?" Xiao Hua asked curiously. Master, just follow this disciple. Xiongyi did not say more. He flew down from the flying carriage and flew to a place outside the capital of Jiang country. Xiao Hua was also surprised and followed Xiongyi. A short while later, a large manor appeared in front of the two. Xiao Hua's consciousness swept over, and a surprised expression appeared on his face. He said curiously, Xiongyi, why are there so many boys? There must be tens of thousands. Yes, Master, Xiongyi said with a smile. Master has orders, how can Qin Xiaoyaro and the others dare to neglect? Naturally, they searched everywhere. There are many orphans in the poor villages near Yu province. The disciples did not care about the cost, and scattered large amounts of silver. Naturally, they brought many boys. Actually, from what this disciple sees, half of them are choosing boys for master, and the other half are doing good deed. Earlier, these boys were left behind at Blackwind Ridge. When I came here, I felt that it was inappropriate. Those demons, cough cough. To tell the truth, I didn't dare to trust them, so I sent them here. Later, Master Zun Kong and Senior Zhong Daoran also sent boys over, and I gathered them here. I've also taken the time to take a look at these child disciples. The ones sent by Exalted Zun Kong and Senior Zhong Daoran are indeed top-notch talents. The disciples we're looking for are much worse. It doesn't matter. Regardless of their aptitude, all of them are now my Fortune Gate's disciples. Xiao Hua laughed heartily as he said, gather all these children, this old man will take them with the nation weapon. Yes, Master. Xiongyi was the first to descend. He ordered the Fortune Gate disciples in the manor to gather the 10,000 children together. Xiao Hua pretended to take out the mountain river seal and sent these children into his space. Seeing so many children appear in his space, the green-robed Xiao Hua was grinning from ear to ear. With a wave of his hand, he sent these children into an illusion inside the space. It seemed like he was going to do something big. On the flying carriage, the worry on Li Xiong's face had disappeared, as if he had made a decision in his heart. He only sat there with his eyes closed and didn't say anything. As for Yuan Ya, he was heavily injured and had already fallen asleep. Qin Xiaoyaro frowned, he looked at the clouds below the flying carriage, as if he was thinking about something. After all, what happened today was too strange. Although Qin Xiaoyaro had always been in the Jiang country, and even followed Xiao Jian and the others to recover the Jiang country in the palace of the Jiang country, he had never thought that things would develop to this point. Not long after, Xiao Hua and Xiongyi turned back and drove the flying carriage back to Blackwind Ridge. Neither of them said anything, so Li Xiong and Qin Xiaoyaro naturally did not ask. After Xiao Hua and the others returned to the Blackwind Ridge, the Fortune Gate's disciples also returned from Jiang country, Copper Pillar country, and even other places. None of them were reluctant to leave Jiang country. Whether it was Liu Yi or the Black Bear Spirit, both of them were bewildered. When they saw Yuan Ya's injuries and heard Qin Xiaoyao's description, all of them were filled with righteous indignation. Thinking about how much effort they had put into reviving Jiang country, yet in the end, this was the result, anyone would be furious. However, Liu Yi was glad that the bitter Yuan Ya had escaped from Xiao Jian's control and had finally entered his master's tutelage. This was a great fortune amidst all the unhappiness. The matter of the Fortune Gate disciples returning to Blackwind Ridge naturally could not be hidden from Shui Mingzi, Ao Zhantian, and the others. When they found out the reason, their anxious hearts calmed down, and they waited for Xiao Hua's decision. On the other hand, Xiao Hua only showed his face once in his cultivation cave after returning to Blackwind Ridge, then he went into seclusion. No one knew what he was doing. Only Xiongyi was in charge of the Blackwind Ridge's affairs. What could Xiao Hua do in seclusion? Naturally, it was to help green-robed Xiao Hua establish a sect in the space. When Jade Archive Xiao Hua entered the space, he saw green-robed Xiao Hua with his hands behind his back. He proudly stood in the sky. Below him was an abnormally tall mountain range. Jade Archive Xiao Hua had arranged for more than 10,000 children to settle down on this mountain range. Layers of lightning flashed around green-robed Xiao Hua's body, and an indescribable fluctuation rippled out from his body. The lightning-devouring bead that Xiao Hua had stored in the space had long been swallowed into his stomach. While he was nourishing the lightning-devouring bead with his space force, he was also carefully comprehending the changes in the lightning inside the lightning-devouring bead. Xiao Hua's lightning escape technique had improved by leaps and bounds due to his comprehension of the lightning-devouring bead. Seeing Jade Archive Xiao Hua enter, green-robed Xiao Hua hurriedly cupped his fists and said, "Fellow Daoist is here, quickly, give I some advice." Hee hee. Seeing this, Jade Archive Xiao Hua chuckled. That's right, although green-robed Xiao Hua was ambitious to establish his own force, there would be many problems if he really wanted to do it. After all, green-robed Xiao Hua's divine ability was not small, but he knew very little about establishing a sect just like Xiao Hua. Moreover, other than the 10 great primordial spirits, Xiao Hua would not divulge the secret of the space to anyone else. Thus, Xiao Hua could only do it himself. Fortunately, in the space, other than Jade Archive Xiao Hua and green-robed Xiao Hua, Confucian cultivator Xiao Hua was also quietly thinking about something. He volunteered himself to come out, glorifying it as training. Jade Archive Xiao Hua naturally knew that Confucian cultivators had to train in the hidden immortal continent before reaching the 5th grade of elemental energy. Understanding the arts and etiquette, and even managing a region, this had an extremely subtle effect on Confucian cultivators' understanding of the noble qi. However, the problem was that Confucian cultivator Xiao Hua's 5 qi unifications seemed to be different from ordinary Confucian cultivators. He shouldn't need any training, right? When Confucian cultivator Xiao Hua haggled with green-robed Xiao Hua, Jade Archive Xiao Hua already understood that Confucian cultivator Xiao Hua also wanted to get a share of the profits from these 10,000+ children. Seeing Confucian cultivator Xiao Hua's eagerness to give it a try, Jade Archive Xiao Hua agreed very much. After all, Confucian cultivators had a large number of ancient books and scrolls. Among them were academies, sects, and even the constitution of a country. The 2 primordial spirits only needed to follow these diagrams to establish a sect. However, these children were all young. Jade Archive Xiao Hua didn't know what this so-called sect would look like in the hands of green-robed Xiao Hua and Confucian cultivator Xiao Hua. However, Jade Archive Xiao Hua didn't care about this. Within the space, everything was under his control. He simply let the 2 primordial spirits pair up. Jade Archive Xiao Hua's figure landed on the huge white bones below the immortal beheading stage. Xiao Hua obtained an extremely large number of white bones on the altar of the legacy realm. Now, these white bones were all stably gathered together, forming a huge human figure. However, this human figure was very strange. It actually had 3 heads and 6 arms. It's really strange. Could it be that these are the skeletons of 3 people? Jade Archive Xiao Hua pinched his chin and looked at the white bones that were being tempered under the lightning water. Xiao Lei's body flashed with lightning as he lay among the white bones in a deep sleep. He couldn't help but think to himself. But if it's the skeletons of 3 people, these broken bones are tightly knit together without any extra parts. Moreover, in the lightning water, the bone spurs between these white bones are gradually healing. It must be a giant with 3 heads and 6 arms. Oh, no, it's still missing a piece. Jade Archive Xiao Hua's gaze swept over. His figure swayed and he appeared on top of the giant's head. Sure enough, he saw that the top of the giant's head was missing a 1-foot square triangular white bone. This triangular gap was very neat, as if it was pierced by an extremely sharp weapon. Damn, is this the legendary failure at the last hurdle? Jade Archive Xiao Hua's previous joy was extinguished by more than half. However, he also knew that this missing piece of white bone was certainly not in the legacy realm. He was afraid that it was the same as the other white bones he obtained, lost in a different place. Let's leave it to fate. Jade Archive Xiao Hua thought for a moment and shook his head. I still have important things to do. When Xiao Hua's mind left the space, he waved his hand and took out the Kunlun mirror, releasing Xian Songzi's nascent soul. Xian Songzi didn't dare to be negligent and hastily bowed to greet him. Xiao Hua smiled and helped the little Xian Songzi up. He asked, "Is there anything wrong with fellow Daoist's current cultivation?" Xian Songzi said with a smile, I'll let Daoist know that there are many twists and turns in the cultivation of scattered nascent soul. Many of them are not what I have experienced before. Many times, even I am not sure. Moreover, I don't have a physical body, so I feel that there are many restrictions in comprehending cultivation method. Xiao Hua thought for a moment and took out a new spiritual intelligence derived from the northern underworld breath. He smiled and said, "Is fellow Daoist talking about this?" What is this?" Xian Songzi looked at this somewhat strange thing. He didn't know what it was and looked at Xiao Hua in bewilderment. This is the spiritual intelligence derived from fellow Daoist's ink cloud pupil. Ah! This is the spiritual intelligence derived. How did Daoist know? Xian Songzi was in disbelief. After all, there was only a name and no image. Who knew which one was the spiritual intelligence derived? -13. Chapter 38:10. If I say so, then so be it. Xiao Hua smiled. I called you out just to ask you, are you going to take it now? Or do you want to take it later? Ari, I also want to take it. But without Ren Jing, what's the use of taking it now? Xian Songzi was very dejected. Xiao Hua smiled again and took out the mother-child spirit fruit. Fellow Daoist, look at what this is. This is Ren Jing. Xian Songzi was stunned. Looking at the Ren Jing that looked exactly like a pregnant human, how could he not know? Daoist. After Xian Songzi woke up, he hurriedly bowed. Daoist has given me a new life. I don't know how to thank Daoist. There's no need for this. Xiao Hua hurriedly helped Xian Songzi up. You and I were originally fated. Saving you was a small matter for me. Helping you now is also beneficial to me. This matter is easy for Daoist, but for me, it's a huge matter. Xian Songzi sighed. Back then, other than my master, speaking up to here, Xian Songzi's eyes lit up. Looking at Xiao Hua, he respectfully bowed on the ground and said, Disciple Xian Songzi wishes to become master's disciple. Would master accept disciple as disciple? Ah! Xiao Hua was a little surprised. He originally wanted to discuss with Xian Songzi how to use Ren Jing and derived spirit wisdom so that he could let the 100 or so nascent souls in his dantian cultivate. Who would have thought that Xian Songzi would actually do something like this? Daoist, this nascent soul cultivation method was originally taught to me by Daoist. What's the difference between this and teaching? Moreover, I'm now a lonely soul. Without Daoist's protection, I wouldn't be able to survive. Being able to become Daoist's disciple is actually my fortune. Xian Songzi kowtowed. Daoist, please have mercy. Xiao Hua pondered a bit. He knew that Xian Songzi was right. Although his heart was magnanimous, what would Xian Songzi think? This was also a heart demon and karma. Only by accepting this karma could he truly help Xian Songzi. Okay. Xiao Hua nodded. Xian Songzi was overjoyed. Just as he was about to kowtow, Xiao Hua hurriedly waved his hand. Wait a moment. Yes, master. Xian Songzi was amazed, but when Xiao Hua released Master Daoist Jingting's nascent soul, Xian Songzi understood. Spiritual Master Jingting's nascent soul was protected by the green-robed Xiao Hua in the Lianyao flask, so his nascent soul wasn't obliterated. Now that he had rested for a few years, he had recovered a little. Now that he appeared in front of Xiao Hua, although he knew that he had escaped death, his little face was filled with despair just like Xian Songzi. Master Daoist Jingting. Xiao Hua points his finger and says, You were fated to meet this Xiao at the Jade Pavilion conference, and you were even implicated by this Xiao inside the formation. Now that you've lost your physical body and only have your nascent soul left, this Xiao is willing to bear this karma for you. Are you willing? Daoist Master Xiao. Daoist Master Jingting looks at the Yuanying kneeling in front of him, somewhat puzzled. What if I'm willing? What if I'm not? He, Xian Songzi, get up and break it down with Reverend Jingting. Xiao Hua didn't say much and let Xian Songzi explain to Master Daoist Jingting. Seeing Master Daoist Jingting like this, Xian Songzi's heart was filled with sympathy. This was the so-called sympathy for fellow sufferers. In a moment, he had already explained the cause of the matter clearly. Although Master Daoist Jingting's reaction was slow and his luck wasn't good, his mind wasn't inferior to Xianzong's. At this time, how could he not know that there was an unprecedented road in front of him? Disciple Master Daoist Jingting is willing to become Master Daoist's disciple. Master Daoist Jingting knelt in front of Xiao Hua with Xianzongzi. Good. Xiao Hua nods. Although this old man has some knowledge about the cultivation method of scattering nascent soul, after all, I can't often teach it to you. Now that the two of you are cultivating together, we can exchange knowledge and discuss it with each other. Yes, disciple understands. Xianzongzi and Master Daoist Jingting understood Xiao Hua's painstaking efforts. The two of them kowtowed together 9 times, which could be considered as becoming Master Daoist. Alright, since you've become Master Daoist Jingting's disciple, Master Daoist Jingting. Xiao Hua says with a smile, Master will first teach you the cultivation method of scattering nascent soul. Master, just call disciple Jingting. Daoist Jingting says respectfully. Good. After saying that, a crystal thread as bright as a crescent moon appears between Xiao Hua's eyebrows and enters between Master Daoist Jingting's eyebrows. Boom. Master Daoist Jingting feels as if his mind is being bombarded by a huge object. Countless words and understandings fall into his mind. Master Daoist Jingting doesn't dare to be negligent. He immediately sits there cross-legged and closes his eyes to comprehend. Xiao Hua takes back the soul thread and looks at Xianzongzi beside him. He says with a smile, this old man still has some understandings. I won't teach them to you for now. After Jingting finishes comprehending, you can discuss with him how to take Ren Jing and develop spiritual wisdom. Yes, Master. Xianzongzi restrains the ecstasy in his heart and answers with a bow. Xiao Hua walks out of the quiet room. Liu Yi, who is guarding the door, hurriedly bows and says, Greetings, Master. Ian, how is Yuanya? Xiao Hua is somewhat worried about Yuanya who almost died. Brother Ya is fine. After taking Master's miraculous spirit pill, his injuries are already fine. Liu Yi obediently answers, it's just that he was hit hard by Dia Wu's matter and can't come back to his senses for a while. Just now, disciple heard from Wang Yuanfei that Brother Ya was called by his mother to roast some meat for him to eat. That's right. Xiao Hua nods. Although Yuanfei's mother doesn't have much experience, she is Yuan Ya's teacher in the matters between men and women. It's not bad to listen to more advice. If you see Yuan Ya, ask him if he has thought it through. If he has, then come see me. Yes. Liu Yi bows and answers. Also, seniors Shui Mingzi and Ao Zhantian came to find Master a few times. It seems like they have some matters to discuss. Oh. Are the two of them together? Or did they come separately? Xiao Hua sits on the brocade chair and asks with interest. The two of them came separately. Ian, invite fellow Shui Mingzi over. Xiao Hua says after thinking for a while. Liu Yi goes out. Not long after, Shui Mingzi enters the cave. Xiao Hua invites him to take a seat. The two of them exchange greetings for a while. Shui Mingzi says with a smile, I came to find Daoist Xiao because I have a private matter to discuss with fellow Daoist. Oh, fellow Daoist, please speak. Seeing that Shui Mingzi didn't mention leaving the Black Wind Ridge and instead talked about private matters, Xiao Hua unconsciously raises his eyebrows. Previously, I also told Daoist that the situation in the hidden immortal continent is very delicate. The changes in the Yarotai mountain will probably anger the immortal palace. We Daoist cultivators who survived the Yarotai mountain will have to think about how to deal with it. Shui Mingzi seems to have thought about it long ago. He quickly explains, for a shrinking force like the Black Wind Ridge, not coming out is one way. Another way is to leave the hidden immortal continent to temporarily avoid the limelight. I am not talented, but I have some dealings with the Demon King of the ancient Bell Mountain in the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm, so I want to temporarily avoid this place. I saw that Daoist Xiao treats Black Bear, White Lion, and Golden Eagle very well. I presume that you don't discriminate against Demon Kings, so I want to invite Daoist Xiao to come with me. Hee hee. Xiao Hua smiles. Fellow Shui Mingzi, it can't be that simple, right? Is there something else? Of course. If it were that simple, I wouldn't have come here so seriously. Shui Mingzi smiles mysteriously. 50 years later, near the ancient Bell Mountain, there will be a grand event in the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm. As for what it is exactly, I can't reveal it at this time. If Daoist Xiao is interested, why don't we take this opportunity to go together? With Daoist Xiao's skills, you will definitely gain something. I see. Xiao Hua thinks to himself, that day, Ao Zhantian said that Shui Mingzi has some background. This must be the reason. He, a Daoist cultivator, can actually participate in the grand event of the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm. Maybe he also has the bloodline of the demon race. This grand event also depends on one's skills. But now, do I still need to go to the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm? Thinking of this, Xiao Hua smiles. I thank fellow Shui Mingzi for thinking so highly of me. However, this matter will take at least 50 years. There is still some time until now. I don't want to leave so early. Sigh, 50 years is just the blink of an eye. Shui Mingzi persuades, now is a sensitive time for Confucian cultivators. Wouldn't it be better for fellow Daoist to take this opportunity to get rid of the trouble? Let me think about it. Xiao Hua doesn't agree. Shui Mingzi doesn't insist. He takes out the jade eye and the token and gives it to Xiao Hua, saying, this is the location of the ancient Bell Mountain and my token. If Daoist Xiao goes and I'm not there, just show the token and the Demon King will definitely treat you with respect. Okay. Xiao Hua takes it and says, if I have nothing to do, I will definitely go. Okay, I will wait for Daoist Xiao's arrival. Shui Mingzi stands up and leaves. After Xiao Hua stands up and sends him off, he asks Liu Yi to invite Ao Zhantian. He looks at the jade eye and the token in his hand with a smile and puts them away. He just came back from the Misty Mountain maze and still has many things to learn. How can he have the time to go to the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm? Not long after, Ao Zhantian also arrives. Unlike Shui Mingzi, Ao Zhantian's first sentence is, Daoist Xiao, did Shui Mingzi find Daoist Xiao? Xiao Hua smiles. The Black Wind Ridge is only so big. Ao Zhantian will know whether Shui Mingzi came or not with just a sweep of his divine sense, so there is no need for him to hide. After Xiao Hua slightly nods, Ao Zhantian says, previously, I vaguely knew that fellow Daoist Shui Mingzi's origin is not simple, but I didn't expect him to be related to the Demon King of the ancient Bell Mountain. His origin is not small. Xiao Hua asks curiously, does the Demon King of the ancient Bell Mountain have a special origin? Daoist Xiao lives in the Yu province, which is east of the hidden immortal continent, so you might not know much about the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm. The Demon King of the ancient Bell Mountain. I heard that he is the descendant of a great sage in the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm. Do you think Shui Mingzi's origin is powerful? Great sage. Xiao Hua nodded. This is a senior of the 9th grade of origin power. No wonder. It's not just the 9th grade of origin power, Ao Zhantian sighs. A great sage is a supreme being who can tear apart space and shatter the void at any time. It's not something a Confucian scholar can compare to. What? Fellow Daoist Ao was also invited by fellow Daoist Shui Mingzi? Xiao Hua asks with a smile. -13. Chapter 38:11. Ao Zhantian nodded with a smile. Yes, Shui Mingzi had discussed this with me before. However, I had an important matter to attend to, so I didn't agree to his request. Today, I came here to discuss this matter with Daoist Master. Oh! Xiao Hua was stunned. What do you want to discuss with me? Ao Zhantian pondered for a moment and sent a voice transmission. Do you know about Dragon Island? Xiao Hua's heart skipped a beat. What do you mean by that? Which cultivator on the hidden immortal continent doesn't know about Dragon Island? If you have the opportunity to go to Dragon Island, would you be willing? Ao Zhantian stared at Xiao Hua's face as if he wanted to see through his true thoughts. If Xiao Hua hadn't met Ao Zhantian, he would have been very interested in Ao Zhantian's suggestion. However, It was clear that Ao Zhantian's so-called opportunity wouldn't be as good as Ao Zhantian's. Xiao Hua couldn't help but hesitate. After thinking for a moment, Xiao Hua asked in a low voice, "Can you tell me the reason behind this matter?" "All right." Ao Zhantian saw Xiao Hua's hesitation and had a bad feeling. After thinking for a moment, he decided to tell him everything. After Ao Zhantian finished explaining everything, Xiao Hua stroked his chin and fell into deep thought. The reason why Ao Zhantian's surname was Ao was because there was an additional person in his surname compared to the Ao of the Dragon Palace. This meant that he was a distant relative of the Dragon Palace's bloodline. This was also what Xiao Hua had seen at the Jade Pavilion conference. Ao Zhantian had the Crimson Dragon bloodline and could use the True Spirit Avatar. Of course, Ao Zhantian's bloodline existed in both the human and demon races. The Dragon Palace didn't really care about them. However, these demons and humans were all descendants of the dragon bloodline. Therefore, every 100 years, the Dragon Palace would hold a selection ceremony to select the purer and more powerful disciples to enter Dragon Island. However, Ao Zhantian and the other descendants of the dragon bloodline only had 3 chances. If they couldn't set foot on Dragon Island after 3 chances, they would lose the right to enter Dragon Island. The Dragon Island was a mysterious place. It was as famous as the Immortal Palace, the Thunder Temple, and the Great Sage Hall. There were countless treasures on the island. If an ordinary cultivator could obtain even one of them, they would be able to take a huge step forward in their cultivation. Although this Dragon Island's training area wasn't the core of the Dragon Island, in order to obtain this opportunity, these descendants with the dragon's bloodline would fight until their heads bled every time. And what made them satisfied was that as long as they could survive the Dragon Island, without exception, they would reap great rewards. There had never been an exception. Coincidentally, 10 years later, it would be the time for the 100-year selection. Ao Zhantian had already participated in the selection ceremony twice, and he had failed to obtain the right to enter the Dragon Island. This was his last chance. Moreover, if Ao Zhantian passed the selection ceremony, even if he didn't gain anything from the Dragon Island, his name would be recorded in the register of the Dragon Palace. Even if he reached the out-of-aperture stage in the future, the Immortal Palace wouldn't force him too much out of consideration for the Dragon Palace. Thus, Ao Zhantian placed great importance on this selection, which was why he had come to ask Xiao Hua for help. Xiao Hua thought for a moment, and thought to himself, "I can use Ao Zhan to enter the Dragon Island, but the problem is whether Ao Qian can be rescued. Even if Ao Qian is rescued, the East Sea Dragon Palace will definitely look for the culprit behind Ao Qian's assassination. In that case, they will inevitably look for me. I have a history with the Heavenly Cave River, and I know the ins and outs of the Dragon Island. If I go to Ao Zhan, not only will he betray me, but the people of the Dragon Palace will also interrogate me. Wouldn't I be walking right into their trap? Rather than taking that risk, I might as well follow Ao Zhantian. Either way, there are humans and demons here, and it'll be easier to avoid them." "Daoist Ao?" Xiao Hua asked, "This selection is an opportunity for your dragon bloodline descendants. What does it have to do with me?" "Of course it has to do with me," Ao Zhantian laughed. "I can bring my guards to participate in the selection. This is the rule of the Dragon Palace. Once I pass the selection, my guards can also follow me to the Dragon Island." "Damn it, you're a nascent soul cultivator of the Dao Gate, why do you need guards?" Xiao Hua asked, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Ao Zhantian shrugged and replied, "I have no choice, this is the custom of the Dragon Palace. If the descendants of the Dragon Palace don't bring guards, then they're not descendants of the Dragon Palace. Even if I don't bring guards, those arrogant demons and Confucian cultivators will." I understand." Xiao Hua nodded. "But where will the selection be held this time?" "The North Sea Dragon Palace is hosting the selection this time," Ao Zhantian explained. "As for where it is, we'll only know when we arrive at the designated place." "The North Sea Dragon Palace." Xiao Hua smiled. As long as it wasn't the East Sea Dragon Palace or the West Sea Dragon Palace, Xiao Hua was willing to go. "All right." Xiao Hua nodded. "If that's the case, I'll go with you and try my luck." "Good." Ao Zhantian clapped. I knew that Daoist Master Xiao would definitely lend me a hand. Now, I'll go with you. Ah, so soon? Xiao Hua was a little surprised. Why don't we hurry up? Ao Zhantian asked curiously. The hidden immortal continent is currently in a dangerous situation. Who knows when the heavenly immortal palace will send their fury down? If we rush to the North Sea Dragon Palace's territory now, even if the heavenly immortal palace wants to vent their anger on us, they won't be able to do anything to us. Besides, I've already prepared a lot for this selection. Fellow Daoist doesn't need to prepare anything. You just need to follow me. Although Xiao Hua knew that Ao Zhantian and Shui Mingzi were right, he really couldn't leave. After thinking for a moment, Xiao Hua smiled. How about this? Fellow Daoist Ao, you tell me the designated place of the North Sea Dragon Palace and I promise to arrive in 10 years. How about that? Oh, all right. It seems like that's the only way. Seeing that Xiao Hua had already made up his mind, Ao Zhantian didn't force him. Just like Shui Mingzi, he took out his own token and a jade eye ring and handed them to Xiao Hua before turning to leave. However, before Ao Zhantian left, he didn't forget to turn back and say, also, Daoist Master Xiao, we've gathered here for too long. Perhaps we've already attracted the attention of the Confucian cultivators. If we fall into the heavenly immortal palace's ears, it will definitely be detrimental to the Blackwind Ridge. You should prepare early. Ian, I understand. I'll have to trouble fellow Daoist to inform the other fellow Daoists that I'll be holding a farewell banquet tomorrow morning and invite all fellow Daoists to attend. Xiao Hua had already thought of a plan. Okay. The last stone in Ao Zhantian's heart was lifted and he left with a smile. There was no need to mention the farewell banquet. Xiao Hua raised his cup and the other cultivators also raised their cups. According to the blood oath, as long as Xiao Hua needed them for 1,000 years, they would be at his beck and call. Of course, other than the early nascent soul cultivator, Royal Highness Lan, there were many golden core cultivators who decided to stay in the Black Wind Ridge after seeing how prosperous the Fortune Gate was. After the banquet, the group of cultivators bid farewell and flew out in batches. However, there were too many Daoist cultivators working for Xiao Hua. In order not to attract the attention of the Confucian cultivators, these cultivators flew for an entire day before gradually dispersing. Shui Mingzi and Ao Zhantian were the last to leave the capital star formation. There was no one else in the Black Wind Ridge anymore. Xiao Hua turned around and walked into his cave. Xiao Hua had just sat down in his cave when Royal Highness Lan came in with dozens of golden core cultivators. As soon as Royal Highness Lan entered the cave, he immediately bowed and said, Daoist Master Xiao, I have chatted with fellow Daoist Xiong a few times in the past few days. Although fellow Daoist Xiong did not tell me too much, I already know quite a bit about what happened in the country of Jiang. Now that I've reached a bottleneck in my cultivation, I'm especially worried about my lifespan. Since I've already made a blood oath to serve Daoist for 500 years, I don't have much time to squander after these 500 years. Rather than that, why don't I just become Daoist's disciple and receive your guidance? Junior is also willing to become Daoist Xiao's disciple. About 20 golden core cultivators bowed and said in unison. Xiao Hua looked at Royal Highness Lan and thought inwardly. Royal Highness Lan was also saved by him during the Jadestage conference. This cultivator's shrewdness was above Xiong Yi's, and his ability to judge the situation was even better than Xiong Yi's. In the short few years he had been in the Black Wind Ridge, he had seen a lot of things, such as the Origin Stone Mine, the Capital Star Formation, and the battle between Jiang Country and Copper Pillar Country. However, Xiao Hua looked at these cultivators and said solemnly, Royal Highness Lan, if it was in the past, I would welcome you to become my disciple. After all, you can gather the power of the Dao sect and protect our Dao sect from the influence of Confucian cultivators. But now that the Jadestage Mountain has changed, if you become my disciple, you might be implicated. Are you still willing? Haha, Daoist Xiao is overthinking. Royal Highness Lan laughed and said, I have thought about it over these years. I have suffered a lot in order to reach the nascent soul realm. I have also suffered a lot under the pressure of Confucian cultivators. If Daoist Xiao hadn't saved me during the Jadestage conference, I would have died long ago. People who have died once can see things that ordinary cultivators can't compare to. Daoist Xiao's mind is broad and his magic power is boundless. If I can receive Daoist Xiao's guidance, not only can my cultivation improve, I can also hide from Confucian cultivators under Daoist Xiao's protection. Why wouldn't I be happy? This disciple is willing to become Daoist Xiao's disciple. Royal Highness Lan knelt on the ground. The 20 golden core disciples also knelt and shouted, Junior is also willing to become Daoist Xiao's disciple. Good. Xiao Hua nodded. Just as he was about to speak, he heard someone call out from outside the cave, Wait, oh. Xiao Hua was stunned and raised his head to look. He saw Li Xiong rushing into the cave with dozens of his disciples behind him. Li Xiong entered the cave and immediately knelt beside Royal Highness Lan and said anxiously, Daoist Xiao, I am also willing to enter the Fortune Gate. -13. Chapter 38:12. We juniors are also willing to become your disciples. Li Xiong's disciples said, and naturally knelt beside the 20 Jindan disciples. Looking at the liveliness in the cave, Xiao Hua smiled slightly, stood up and said, Fellow Daoist Li, get up quickly, what are you singing now? Ah, Daoist Xiao. Li Xiong did not get up, but lowered his head and sighed. Speaking of which, I, Xiong Yi, and this fellow Daoist have all received great kindness from Daoist. Perhaps one of them was saved, but I, along with all my disciples, was saved from the death prison by Daoist. And I have been with Daoist Xiao the longest. Normally speaking, I should have said it long ago. However, Daoist must have known long ago that I did not get along well with the previous imperial tutor of Jiang country, Qin Haoyue. I have lingering fears about this. Especially when Daoist wanted to go to Yarutai Mountain, I did my best to stop him. In reality, I also had selfish motives. I knew that if Daoist went, if he died, if he returned, it would not be the ending I wanted. If Daoist took the imperial tutor's lot, he would definitely fall into the mortal world, and his mind would definitely be affected. I do not want to repeat the same mistake. So after Xiongyi returned, even though fellow Daoist Xiong did not say anything, I already understood that Daoist Xiao most likely already received the imperial tutor's lot, and the development of the matter has already fallen in a direction I do not want to see. So I simply did not care about the matters of Blackwind Ridge, and handed them all to fellow Daoist Xiong. As for the peculiarities that fellow Daoist Xiong found, I did not detect them at all. I am far inferior to fellow Daoist Xiong in this regard. This is also one of the reasons why I had the thought of leaving. Before Daoist returned, I had already made a decision. If there is a chance, I will bid farewell to Daoist. However, Daoist's performance in Jiang country really exceeded my expectations. Not only did Daoist save me again, you also generously gave the imperial tutor's lot to the Changling princess. At this moment, I understand that Daoist is going to the Yarutai conference for that promise, and not just to establish a country. Daoist is not the Daoist I thought. Daoist should go to the Yarutai conference. A cultivator like Daoist who treats promises as gold, is that not what I want to follow? At this point, Li Xiong bowed down again and said, Therefore, I would like to ask Daoist to allow this disciple to become Daoist's disciple. We are all willing to become your disciples and listen to your teachings. Dozens of golden core cultivators shouted in unison. Their voices were rather majestic. Xiao Hua smiled and waved his hand. Good, since everyone has come under this old man's tutelage, then, on behalf of my Fortune Gate disciples, this old man welcomes everyone. Thank you, Dao Master. The cultivators were overjoyed and kowtowed as they entered the Fortune Gate. Today is another joyous day. Looks like this old man will have to hold a big banquet again. Xiao Hua sat down and laughed heartily, then ordered, Black Bear, quickly go and prepare. Yes, I understand. The Black Bear spirit was overjoyed when he saw so many Golden Core Realm cultivators joining the Fortune Gate. He hurriedly ran out. Xiong Yi, Li Xiong, Prince Lan, stay behind. The other disciples go back and rest first. Xiao Hua instructed again, with the bearing of a sect leader. Yes. All the Golden Core Realm and Foundation Establishment Realm disciples answered in unison and walked out one after another. Only Liu Yi, Fu Jiwen, and Wang Yifei stood in front of Xiao Hua without moving. Liu Yi, prepare a seat for the 3 senior brothers. Xiao Hua instructed. Yes, master. Liu Yi's expression did not change. He glanced at Fu Jiwen and Wang Yifei, then the 3 of them took out 3 chairs from the side and placed them beside the 3 nascent soul realm cultivators. Xiao Hua smiled and said, Senior brothers, please sit. Many thanks, junior brothers. Xiong Yi and the others knew that these 3 were the disciples that Xiao Hua had chosen. Although their cultivations were still shallow, their future was immeasurable, so they did not dare to neglect them. When the 3 nascent soul realm disciples were seated, Xiao Hua smiled and said, You all have seen it. Previously, this old man only wanted to accept a few disciples to train. The so-called founding of a sect was not something that I had thought of, but now, even you 3 nascent soul realm cultivators have come under this old man's tutelage. This lineup has exceeded this old man's expectations. Of course, to tell you the truth, this old man has no problem guiding your cultivation. This old man's strength is far beyond your imagination. Hiss. Xiong Yi, Li Xiong, and Prince Lan all sucked in a breath of cold air. They looked at each other with astonishment in their eyes. After all, in their eyes, the strength that Xiao Hua had shown was already extremely shocking. They had never imagined that Xiao Hua's far beyond your imagination would be like Loki. Xiao Hua smiled and said, If you all had not come under this old man's tutelage, this old man would not have told you. Yes, this disciple understands. Xiong Yi and the others smiled and nodded. Cultivation techniques, medicinal pills, magic treasures. Wait. You all don't need to think about it, this old man has confidence in all of these. Xiao Hua said again, however, this old man does not have much experience in establishing a sect. Now that my fortune gate has more disciples, these are all things that you all need to consider. Yes, in the space, although the green-robed Xiao Hua and the scholarly cultivator Xiao Hua were establishing a sect, they were close to gods in the space. Moreover, there were more than 10,000 disciples that they could do whatever they wanted. But in the Black Wind Ridge, it was different. Not to mention the 3 nascent soul cultivators, even those golden core disciples, which one of them had not lived for hundreds of years, experienced the ways of the world, and experienced all kinds of hardships. If there were no rules for establishing a sect, before the fortune gate was established, wouldn't the people's hearts have already scattered? Master, please rest assured. Xiong Yi smiled and said, before Master returned, this disciple had already considered this matter. Although this disciple has not reported to Master, nor has this disciple discussed with the 2 senior brothers, this disciple has already formed a constitution. Master, please take a look. Saying this, Xiong Yi took out a jade-eye ring and handed it to Xiao Hua. Oh, Xiong Yi will enter under this old man's tutelage first as a senior brother. Xiao Hua came to his senses and said to the 3 people, Li Xiong will enter last as a junior brother. Yes, this disciple understands. The 3 of them were all nascent soul cultivators, and their cultivations were very similar. In fact, it didn't matter who was the senior brother or junior brother. The 3 of them looked at each other and answered with a smile. Xiao Hua took the jade-eye ring and glanced at it, then handed it to Prince Lan and said, You 2 also take a look. Prince Lan and Li Xiong looked at the jade-eye ring, then at each other. Prince Lan smiled and said, Senior brother Xiong's constitution is very detailed, this disciple has nothing to say. Xiong Yi's constitution contains my Black Wind Ridge's previous framework, and also contains the rules of an ordinary sect. The 3 of you will be outer disciples, and each of you will teach a group of disciples. This old man will lead some younger disciples to become inner disciples. Xiao Hua nodded and said, also, this old man basically agrees with the rewards and punishments. However, since we are going to expand, there is no harm in abandoning the outer and inner disciples, and each of you will lead a division. Xiao Hua expressed his opinion. In fact, what he said was similar to the Imperial Lightning Sect structure, and he didn't have any special ideas. Hearing this, Xiong Yi and the others smiled and said, We also understand what Master is saying. This kind of sect structure is a little scattered for the sect master's authority, but it suits master's lazy personality. However, the current fortune gate relies on master's strength, and our fortune gate's disciples have not reached that level. According to master's idea of managing the sect, is not suitable. All right. Xiao Hua naturally knew his own weight, and he waved his hand and said with a smile, "These mundane matters will be left to the three of you. This old man will not say anything else." "Yes, master." The three of them said in unison, "You can cultivate as much as you want, the higher your strength." The three of them suddenly thought of something and looked at each other. Xiongyi then looked at Liu Yi and the others and said, "Master, let junior brother Liu Yi and the others leave for a while." Xiao Hua nodded and let Liu Yi and the others leave. Prince Lan asked in a low voice, "Master, don't tell me you've already reached the 5th grade. Hihi, what do you think?" Xiao Hua chuckled and asked in return. "Nonsense." Xiongyi said to Prince Lan, "Master killed 3 Buddhist sects upper grade 4th grade essence force guardians with a wave of his hand. What do you think Master's strength is?" "But, Master, your cultivation seems to be only at mid-nascent soul realm, right?" Li Xiong also asked in a low voice. Here. Xiao Hua smiled and waved his hand. 3 jade eyes flew to the three of them and said, "I know what you're thinking, take them and cultivate." "Haha, thank you master." Xiong Yi and the others were overjoyed. They carefully looked at the jade eyes and kept them in their spatial pouches before saying, "Actually, master, this disciple wants to remind master that you must control your cultivation realm. If the immortal palace finds out, it will be very difficult. This old man knows." Xiao Hua nodded and frowned. What if this old man is not on the hidden immortal mainland? Will the immortal palace find out? Definitely not in the Western Paradise. Those old bald donkeys of the Thunder Monastery wear the same pants as the immortal palace. As long as you break through to the 5th grade in the Western Paradise, the immortal palace will immediately know. Li Xiong replied, "As for the 1,000 demon sacred realm, the demon race and the immortal palace have the same agreement. They cannot block the celestial phenomenon of a breakthrough. Of course, the demon race has always been arrogant and unruly, and there have been many conflicts with the immortal palace over the years. Some demon kings and even great sages don't put the immortal palace in their eyes. If our Daoist cultivators break through in these places, the immortal palace may not know. And even if they know, they won't dare to go down to the lower realm to capture us. However, this is on the premise that the fellow Daoist who breaks through will not be eaten by the demon king. This old man understands." Xiao Hua nodded. He already knew Shui Ming's plan. "Master, this disciple also has something to discuss with everyone." Prince Lan was very happy that he obtained the jade eyes. Now that he saw Xiao Hua following his advice without any arbitrariness, he also said, "I hope master won't take offense." Xiao Hua smiled and said, "Just say it. This disciple has not been in the Black Wind Ridge for long, so I might not know the origin of the Black Wind Ridge." Prince Lan said, "But in this disciple's opinion, the Black Wind Ridge is not suitable to be the location of our fortune gate." -13. Chapter 38:13. "Oh, what do you mean?" Xiao Hua frowned slightly, but he soon regained his composure and asked with interest. "Master, disciple has 3 reasons." His heart tightened as he carefully said, "First, the Black Wind Ridge is not big enough for a sect to develop. Second, the Black Wind Ridge is located at the border of 3 countries. No matter how it develops, Jiang country, Jiosa country, and Copper Pillar country will pay attention. These 3 countries have Tao sects, Confucian cultivators, and Buddhism behind them. Even if our fortune gate unifies the 3 countries, the Confucian cultivators will be alerted. Since Master wants to do something that no one has done before, this idea of establishing a country should be abandoned. Third, the Black Wind Ridge's origin energy is not particularly abundant, and it is only because of the origin stone mine underground. Now that the origin stone mine is known by others, it will be a big problem in the future. Oh, since you mentioned it, disciple has another drawback. Black Wind Ridge has already fallen into the Confucian cultivator's eyes. If Master wants to establish a sect here, it is tantamount to walking into a trap. Senior brother Lan is right. Li Xiong knew Xiao Hua's temperament. He looked at Xiao Hua and smiled. Master's cultivation is profound, but he is indeed lacking in this aspect. In these years, Disciple has considered that the Black Wind Ridge's reputation is not good, and our Fortune Gate's reputation will also be bad if we establish a sect here. Who says this old man has not thought about it? Xiao Hua of course would not admit it. A crafty rabbit has 3 burrows, how could this old man not consider this matter? It's just that this old man has not had time to discuss it with you. Ian, what does Master think we should do next? Xiongyi asked with a smile. You can decide on this matter. Xiao Hua casually waved his hand. All right, Disciple will speak first. Seeing that Xiao Hua was not angry, Lan Huan relaxed and said, when Disciple was traveling in Jing province, Disciple saw a mountain range that was vast and rich in origin energy. If Master's formation can be placed in that mountain range, it will not attract the attention of Confucian cultivators. Disciple also knows that there is a blessed land in Yu province that is very suitable for establishing a sect. Li Xiong added, furthermore, I feel that this place doesn't have to be too far away from Black Wind Ridge. Let's take a closer look first. Xiao Hua nodded and said, in fact, to our Fortune Gate, this protective grand formation is the most important. Only a place where we can set up the formation can establish a sect. All right. Disciple has some understanding of arrays. Prince Lan volunteered. Disciple will first go to the mountain range that junior brother Li mentioned. Good, you take Fujiwen with you. Xiao Hua stood up and said, this old man will wait for your news. In addition, this old man has some matters to attend to today. Xiongyi, come over tomorrow morning. This old man wants to see your cultivation progress. Li Xiong is temporarily in charge of the affairs of Blackwind Ridge. Thank you, Master. Xiongyi was overjoyed. Li Xiong and Lan also stood up to accept the order. Xiao Hua was naturally concerned about Daoist Jingting and Xian Songzi. Although the Fortune Gate currently had 3 nascent soul cultivators, Xiao Hua's Dantian had more than 150 nascent souls. If Xian Songzi and Master Daoist Jingting succeeded in cultivating their scattered souls, then Xiao Hua could absolutely control more than 150 scattered souls. What kind of strength was this? Xiao Hua couldn't afford to be careless. When Xiao Hua arrived at the quiet room, Daoist Jingting had already woken up and was whispering with Xian Songzi. Their discussion was lively. When they saw someone enter, both of them were startled and vigilance flashed through their eyes. When they saw Xiao Hua, they were immediately overjoyed. They bowed and said, Master, good. Xiao Hua sat cross-legged on the praying mat and asked, Have you finished your discussion? Yes, Master. Xian Songzi nodded. Disciple and junior brother Jingting have discussed it. There is no difference between the two of us. Now, we can consume the mortal essence. Good. Xiao Hua waved his hand and took out a mortal essence that was several 100,000 years old. Who are you waiting for? Master. Xian Songzi and Daoist Jingting looked at the mortal essence and seemed to be afraid. They hurriedly dodged and cried out, This mortal essence is too old. The heaven and earth essence contained within is not something we can absorb. Oh, there is such a saying. Xiao Hua hurriedly put away the mortal essence. Only then did the two's little faces return to normal. Yes, Master, Xian Songzi said with a bitter smile. Mo Yuntong didn't explain, but Disciple can sense the heaven and earth essence within the mortal essence that is so dense that it can swallow Disciple. Oh, so that's how it is. Xiao Hua somewhat understood. The nascent soul was originally a spiritual body condensed from the heaven and earth essence. After absorbing the mortal essence, one could cultivate a scattered nascent soul. However, if there was too much heaven and earth essence in the mortal essence, it would similarly swallow the nascent soul. Seems like, cultivating a scattered nascent soul is far from as simple as Mo Yuntong said. Mo Yuntong only pointed out a cultivation path. As for the specific details, you still have to figure it out yourself. Daoist Jingting replied with lingering fear. En. Xiao Hua took out several mortal essences that were several tens of thousands of years old, 100,000 years old, and a few 100,000 years old. He said, Shen Songzi, go first. You have more time to comprehend, so you have a higher chance of success. Good. Shen Songzi chose a mortal essence that was about 120,000 years old and said, Master, guard disciple at the side. If there is anything inappropriate, Master can make the decision. Master understands. Xiao Hua nodded and put away the rest of the mortal essences. He rubbed his hands together and launched a series of mysterious seals. As the seals were launched, strands of crystal threads as thin as hair condensed in midair and slowly fell into the mortal essence. The mortal essence melted like ice and snow, turning into a ball of yellow liquid. Within the liquid, balls of golden threads rolled up and down. Moreover, as the whole ball of liquid violently swelled, after the crystal threads entered the liquid, layers of tiny ant-like runes seeped out from the golden threads. These runes emitted a slight rumbling sound, like thunder and also like a low chant. When the runes fell into the yellow liquid, the liquid emitted strange fluctuations from time to time, and the whole liquid actually slowly shrank. After the liquid shrank, it turned into a human figure. Although the appearance was unclear, a fist-sized whirlpool appeared on the top of the door. Ghostly howls resounded in the air. Xiao Hua growled, Shen Songzi, if you're not forming your body now, when are you going to wait? Yes, Master. Shen Songzi was already eager to give it a try. When he heard Xiao Hua's order, he hurriedly rushed towards the mortal essence. Woo! Shen Songzi's nascent soul was only a few feet away from the mortal essence when a huge suction force was produced from the vortex, pulling Shen Songzi into the mortal essence. Ah! Shen Songzi's nascent soul fell into the mortal essence and immediately let out a heart-wrenching howl. Xiao Hua narrowed his eyes and remained unmoved. He already understood that this was the essence of the mortal essence attacking Shen Songzi's nascent soul. This kind of pain was tantamount to tearing apart and rebuilding every inch of Shen Songzi's body. Xiao Hua had also experienced this kind of pain in the past. When the heavens are about to bestow a great responsibility upon a man, it must first torment his will, toil his muscles and bones, starve his skin, empty his body, and disturb his actions. Xiao Hua's mouth faintly recited a Confucian text, and the hand seals in his hand continuously struck out. With the passage of time, 3 faint invisible brilliants slowly emerged from the top of his head. This scattered nascent soul cultivation method was truly heaven-defying. Even someone as strong as Xiao Hua's cultivation base was now beginning to produce a vision. Looking at the mortal essence again, the human figure gradually revealed Shen Songzi's face. However, his face was really ugly. His grimacing appearance was completely deformed. Moreover, the mortal essence's 4 limbs and even its entire body were trembling violently. It seemed that the fusion was very difficult. Go! In the end, Xiao Hua took a deep breath and the magic power in his body surged. The 3 lights above his head suddenly flashed and the flower shape instantly disappeared. As Xiao Hua pushed with his hands, the last hand seal slowly fell into the mortal essence. Boom! There was an indescribable vibration and a strange hiss. The mortal essence's body once again appeared with strange and obscure runes. As the runes tumbled, waves of fluctuations rushed out. Amidst the fluctuations, hundreds of thumb-sized whirlpools appeared in the quiet room at the same time. Waves of unknown air swarmed out and fell into the mortal essence that was already very similar to Shen Songzi's nascent soul. Phew! Xiao Hua let out a sigh of relief. His gaze fell on the mortal essence. The runes had already begun to solidify and a Shen Songzi similar to an ordinary person was gradually forming. Finally, it went smoothly. Xiao Hua faintly smiled, but a moment later, his smile disappeared again. He muttered, it seems, it's still missing something. Exactly, it's this height. Xiao Hua looked at Daoist Master Jingting who was hiding in the corner of the quiet room in the distance. He was somewhat envious and somewhat worried. Suddenly, he realized, this height is very similar to a 4 or 5-year-old child. Thinking of this, Xiao Hua was just about to close his eyes and carefully ponder over the strangeness inside, but suddenly, a tremor suddenly emerged from the bottom of his heart. Ah, this is... Without waiting for Xiao Hua to think more, a peerless pressure descended from the sky and enveloped the entire quiet room. An explosive aura instantly filled the entire quiet room. Lightning tribulation? This aura was so familiar that Xiao Hua almost didn't need to think before he jumped up from the ground. Cultivating a nascent soul requires 3 gold lightning tribulations. Just as this thought appeared, Xiao Hua unhesitatingly rolled up his sleeves and brought Shen Songzi, who had already finished forming his body, and Daoist Master Jingting, who was beside him, who was extremely frightened. His figure flashed and he turned into lightning and rushed out of the quiet room. When he arrived outside the cave, he saw that the sky was already densely covered with dark clouds at an extremely fast speed. Streaks of dragon-like lightning had already begun to brew behind these dark clouds. Damn it, I understand now. This is a loose immortal's helpless action after failing the lightning tribulation. Cultivating a nascent soul also requires a lightning tribulation. This is probably the initial tribulation of a nascent soul. In the future, after a period of time, every realm will have a lightning tribulation. How can my heavenly star's formation withstand 3 gold lightning tribulations? Once this lightning tribulation falls, not to mention the formation turning into ashes, even more than half of the people and demons in the Black Wind mountain range will die. Xiao Hua was somewhat panicked. Why didn't Mo Yuntong even mention this? -13. Chapter 38:14. Xiao Hua flew out of the immortal cave. Xiong Yi and the others were naturally alarmed by the lightning tribulation's celestial phenomenon and had already flown out to investigate. While everyone and the demons were in a state of panic, Xiao Hua separated from the grand array and activated the lightning escape technique. Sure enough, once Xiao Hua left, the suffocating pressure was swept away. Although the sky was still filled with lightning and thunder, the rolling dark clouds chased after Xiao Hua. Sigh. Xiong Yi, Lan Wang, and Li Xiong stood in the air, watching the lightning tribulation leave. They were even more shocked. After a while, the 3 of them looked at each other and sucked in a breath of cold air. Xiong Yi asked in a low voice, 2 junior brothers, what realm did Master break through? Why is there still lightning tribulation? If senior brother doesn't understand, then of course we don't understand either. Lan Wang was also confused. Maybe it's some secret technique Master cultivates. Seeing that the demons of Black Wind Ridge were a little restless, Xiong Yi frowned and sent a message to Qin Xiaoyao, telling him to find He Xiong and the other demons. The 3 of them waited in the air for Xiao Hua to return. After waiting for 3 whole days, Xiao Hua returned with a slightly tired expression. The 3 of them hurriedly went up to greet him. Xiao Hua waved his hand and said, Master is fine. You all go do your own things. Li Xiong, hurry up and find that paradise. With such a big commotion, it's impossible not to attract the attention of the immortal palace. Yes, disciple understands. Li Xiong hurriedly bowed and said, Disciple has already sent a group of disciples to bring food Yuan there. Disciple will go with senior brother Lan Wang. Xiao Hua nodded and landed in front of the cave. He didn't see Yuan Ya standing there, looking at him with concern. Yuan Ya, come in, Xiao Hua said with a wave of his hand. Yes, Master. The worry and confusion on Yuan Ya's face had already disappeared. Hearing Xiao Hua's greeting, Yuan Ya hurriedly replied respectfully and followed Xiao Hua into the cave. Xiao Hua sat down on the brocade chair and asked, Yuanya, do you understand now? Disciple doesn't understand. Yuan Ya was honest and said with regret, the ways of the world, mutual deception, is much more cruel than the beast fights in mystic Jade Dark Forest. Disciple originally thought that Master was the closest person to Disciple, but Disciple never thought that Master would want Disciple's life, and the reason for killing Disciple was because he wanted to marry Dia Wu. As for Dia Wu, this Disciple really does not understand why the throne of Jiang country is so important, to actually make her betray so many people. Master, this Disciple really doesn't dare to believe that this Jiewu is the Jiewu that this Disciple raised with dear milk when she was young. What made her become like this? There was no distinction between the masters that Yuan Ya spoke of. Others might not understand, But Xiao Hua was able to distinguish clearly from Yuan Ye's sorrowful tone. After all, the two people that Yuan Ye considered to be the closest in his life betrayed him at the same time, and even wanted to put him to death. How could he, who did not understand the ways of the world, understand? Xiao Hua smiled and said, "Since you can't figure it out, then don't think about it. In the future, you don't have to think about such complicated and profound questions when you stay under my tutelage." "Yes, Master." Yuan Ye's tone was still somewhat gloomy, but compared to his previous heart that was on the verge of death, there was a faint trace of sunshine. Everyone's personality was different, and there was no need to ask everyone to be proficient in the ways of the world. Everyone should do what they were good at, and only then would they be able to find the most accurate position, and find the happiness in each person's life. "Oh, that's right, Yuan Ye, when did you secretly learn this old man's fist techniques? I remember that you couldn't use them at the Jiang Chao monastery." Xiao Hua thought for a moment, then asked with a smile. When it came to cultivation, Yuan Ye's eyes lit up, and he said with a smile, "That day when Master was practicing at the Jiang Chao mountain range, this disciple secretly learned them from the side, and indeed did not learn them. Those moves were especially awkward, and this disciple could not remember them at all. However, after this disciple left the longevity town with Master, this disciple pondered over them on the side, and then suddenly was able to use them. Moreover, every once in a while, this disciple would feel a very strange flow around this disciple's body. This disciple did not know what this was, but this disciple did not dare to ask Master. However, after a long time, this disciple felt that his strength had increased a lot. The magic hammer that Master gave me was a bit heavy at that time, but now this disciple can hold it very easily." Xiao Hua smiled. He could not remember the origin of this Big Dipper magical fist, but it was very clear that this Big Dipper magical fist was one of the most important parts of his cultivation. For Yuan Ye to be able to secretly learn this Big Dipper magical fist, he was indeed a disciple that the heavens had arranged for him. "Very good." Xiao Hua nodded and handed a jade eye scroll to Yuan Ye, saying, "This is a simple description of the Big Dipper magical fist, and the real cultivation method still requires Master's personal guidance. You should cultivate this fist technique first. When you can feel the flow every time you practice, it should be a small success. You should also cultivate the cultivation method that Liu Yi taught you first, and if there is anything you do not understand, come and ask Master." In addition, this jade eye scroll contains a kind of elementary body refining technique. When you have divine sense, you can explore it yourself. Xiao Hua's heavenly body refining technique came from the Sunset Island, and when he obtained it, he had already promised not to spread it out. However, with Xiao Hua's current cultivation, it was not too difficult to create a similar elementary cultivation method. This body refining technique was given by the green-robed Xiao Hua to the tens of thousands of children in the space to use. "Many thanks, Master." With a goal to cultivate, Yuan Ye seemed to have come back to life, and he reached out to receive it and very happily replied, "Go, if there is something you do not understand, go and ask Liu Yi and Qin Xiaoyao. Now that you are all fellow disciples, there is no need to be afraid of anything." Xiao Hua waved his hand to let Yuan Ye leave. Looking at Yuan Ye's straight waist, which was different from when he came in, Xiao Hua's mouth hung a smile. Even a bright pearl had to be sharpened, and after this encounter, Yuan Ye might be able to understand more. Moreover, Yuan Ye's mind was pure, and he could practice the Big Dipper divine fist that others could not practice. Xiao Hua was really curious about what Yuan Ye's achievements would be in the future. After Yuan Ye left, Xiao Hua also stood up and entered the quiet room. After activating the restriction of the quiet room, he sat cross-legged on the futon and took out the Kunlun mirror. He thought to himself, "I didn't expect that the lightning tribulation that Xian Songzi and perfected Jingting faced to cultivate the scattered nascent soul was not the triple gold lightning tribulation, but only one. However, this lightning tribulation was extremely powerful. With their early-stage nascent soul cultivation, it was impossible for them to withstand it. If it wasn't for me blocking most of it for them, their small bodies would have been turned into ashes by the lightning tribulation. However, in this way, although they can successfully cultivate the scattered nascent soul, the next lightning tribulation will definitely be even more ferocious than this one. It seems that unless I cultivate to the late-stage nascent soul stage, it's better not to place my hopes on the scattered nascent soul cultivation method. Thinking of this, Xiao Hua activated his magic power, and in the light pillar of the Kunlun mirror, Xian Songzi and perfected Jingting came out of the Kunlun ruins. Thank you, Master. At this moment, Xian Songzi and perfected Jingting looked like they were only half of their previous height, but they were much better than nascent soul cultivators. The two of them looked around, and joy appeared on their pale faces as they bowed and said, "Get up." Xiao Hua flicked his sleeve. "Although I blocked the lightning tribulation for you, it's still disadvantageous to your cultivation. I'm sure you know the karma inside. You have to speed up your cultivation in the future. Don't have any problems when the next lightning tribulation comes." "Yes, I understand." Perfected Jingting replied with lingering fear, "The next lightning tribulation will be the scattered nascent soul lightning tribulation. I hope that Master can bestow me with spiritual wisdom so that I can comprehend the cultivation method with senior brother Xian Songzi." "All right." Xiao Hua thought for a moment. He knew that consuming Ren Jing would reconstruct the nascent soul body, so there would be a lightning tribulation. Spiritual wisdom was not necessary for cultivating the scattered nascent soul, so there would not be any special lightning tribulation. He raised his hand and took out a spiritual wisdom that was not too old. He asked, "Who are you waiting for to consume it first?" "I'll go first." Perfected Jingting took a step forward and said, "Just now, senior brother Xian Songzi tried it first. Now, it's my turn." "All right." Xiao Hua raised his hand and delivered the spiritual wisdom to Perfected Jingting. Perfected Jingting respectfully received it. He opened his mouth and the swallow-like spiritual grass fell into his body. Buzz. Just as the spiritual wisdom entered, Perfected Jingting's body immediately flashed with a strange green brilliance. A sound even stranger than the brilliance came from his abdomen. Green seal script. Xiao Hua, who was closely watching Perfected Jingting, was startled. He hastily released his soul sense. Sure enough, within his soul sense, Perfected Jingting's nascent soul body reflected a green light. Several fingernail-sized green seal script spiraled and rushed towards Perfected Jingting's head. Boom. Perfected Jingting only felt an earth-shattering rumble in his mind. Layers of green were like blooming flowers. Little swallows flew out one after another from these flowers. As these swallows flew out, he seemed to have opened his spiritual cavities. His mind became refreshed, far from the muddle-headed feeling he had before. Within Xiao Hua's soul sense, he also saw several green seal scripts suddenly expand and turn into a fist-sized flower. As the flower bloomed, a strange fluctuation tore apart Xiao Hua's soul strands. Immediately, all the green light disappeared and Perfected Jingting returned to his original appearance. "Junior brother." Seeing Perfected Jingting open his eyes, Xian Songzi's eyes flashed with joy. Although he knew the spiritual wisdom would definitely be effective, he still couldn't help but ask in a low voice. "Excellent." Perfected Jingting didn't know how to express his feelings. This feeling of opening all the spiritual cavities was absolutely nothing to the previous him. He never felt there was anything to treasure. After all, without these spiritual cavities, he couldn't have stepped into the ranks of cultivators, let alone reach nascent soul. But now that he had lost his spiritual cavities, he was actually inferior to ordinary people. Now that he had exchanged them with heavenly treasures, this feeling of regaining what he had lost made him understand that even if it was the most common magical ability, as long as he had it, it was also a kind of happiness. He could only use these two words to describe his feelings. -13. Chapter 38:15. Xian Songzi, you too. Xiao Hua waved his hand again and took out another spiritual wisdom amplification and sent it to Xian Songzi. When Xian Songzi used the spiritual wisdom amplification, his eyes also flashed with a strange emotion. Only after using it did he truly know the importance of the spiritual wisdom amplification. Xian Songzi glanced at Perfected Jingting and then looked at Xiao Hua deeply. Then, the two of them bowed at the same time, Master, disciple is truly grateful for Master's kindness of rebirth. There's no need to say anything more. Quickly go and cultivate. You're my disciples. What I can do for you, I'll do according to your requests. Xiao Hua smiled and sent the two nascent souls into the Kunlun ruins. After putting away the Kunlun mirror, Xiao Hua sat cross-legged on the futon and took out a mother-child spirit fruit. As he looked at it carefully, he thought to himself, Xian Songzi and perfected Jingting are nascent souls with primordial spirits. It's natural for them to use the mother-child spirit fruit and spiritual wisdom amplification. After all, they know the degree. However, the 100 or so nascent souls in my lower dantian are already damaged. I'm afraid it's difficult for them to distinguish the degree of use. It'll be difficult for me to cast the spell. Moreover, this spiritual wisdom amplification actually contains green seal text. Such a rare treasure can be used directly, but if it's tempered by my Dao Sect's alchemy method, won't it have a better effect? There's a pill called Spirit Awakening Fluid in Senior Kang Lung's pill formula. It seems to be related to spirit awakening. However, the main ingredient is not spiritual wisdom amplification. When green-robed Xiao Hua in the space is free, I'll let him try refining some. Perhaps this spirit awakening fluid will have a better effect on these nascent souls with incomplete primordial spirits. Of course, these nascent souls are constantly tempered by the 5 qi righteous thunder in their lower dantian. Moreover, they have obtained the essence of the ancient fierce soul. I believe their bodies are tougher than the two of them. It won't be difficult for them to pass the thunder tribulation. If it were in the past, I wouldn't be so anxious. I would definitely wait and see the results of Xian Songzi and the others' cultivation. But now, the matter of Yaotai Mountain has attracted the attention of the Immortal Palace. Perhaps they won't think of me now, but there's no such thing as a secret. Who knows when the Immortal Palace will send someone here? Even, not to mention the Immortal Palace, even the Confucian cultivators of Yuzhou might not be able to tolerate me. Therefore, this Xiao cannot wait any longer. I can only make use of my time. At this point, Xiao Hua was indeed staking everything on a single throw. Also, the things in this world are truly mysterious. Developing intelligence seems to be the second time this Xiao has seen a heaven-earth spiritual object that contains green seal text. Ordinary spirit fruits that contained heaven-earth yuan qi were already rare, but this underworld fruit that could develop spiritual intelligence and grow in the water of the Yellow Springs were even more incredible. Of course, the effects of this miraculous item were miraculous as well. Not to mention the fact that it was able to penetrate the spiritual cavities of nascent souls. Just the underworld fruit was far more beneficial to soul cultivators than the daybreak moon. Previously, Xiao Mao's cultivation speed was already pretty good. However, after consuming the underworld fruit, the speed of cultivation became even more terrifying. In just a few years, I have already reached the Heaven's Heart Realm. Although I have just broken through to the Heaven's Heart Realm, Xiao Mao can feel that my cultivation speed will definitely not slow down in the future. Could it be that this soul cultivator, or rather, the millions of shamans in Meng Mountains were really the descendants of the great god Hutu? Hutu great god really transformed into the 9 underworlds? If that's the case, how do you explain the formation of the yin side of Xiao Mao's space? Shueshue's soul, and Master's soul. Forget it, this world is too miraculous. It's not something that Xiao Mao can speculate with his current strength. Let's not think about it for now. Just as Xiao Hua thought of this, an indescribable surge suddenly appeared in his meridians. Then, Dragon Vein Xiao Hua let out a furious roar and rushed out of Xiao Hua's body, turning into a huge dragon and flying several dozen feet away. It flew straight to the restrictive spell of the quiet room, and only then did it trigger the restrictive spell. The dragon's body was forcefully stopped, and the huge dragon filled up the entire quiet room. What's going on? Xiao Hua asked curiously. Dragon Vein Xiao Hua turned into a dragon elephant and coiled around the quiet room. While swimming, he answered, I sensed a kind of dragon aura soaring into the sky. Although this dragon aura was very weak and not much, after the dragon aura soared into the sky, the noble aura that descended was extremely vast and very tempting. I couldn't help but fly out. Oh! Xiao Hua raised his eyebrows and looked at the direction Dragon Vein Xiao Hua was facing. He asked curiously, "What's going on? What's going on over there?" Dragon Vein Xiao Hua coiled around the quiet room for an hour before entering Xiao Hua's physical body. Xiao Hua walked out of the quiet room and released his Buddhist consciousness. When he saw what was happening over there, he couldn't help but sneer. However, the moment he withdrew his Buddhist consciousness, his expression suddenly changed. He released his Buddhist consciousness again and looked at it for a moment before withdrawing it thoughtfully. A short while later, Xiongyi entered the dwelling and said with a bow, "Master, Jiang country has been revived." Master knows. Xiao Hua nodded and said, "This Changling princess is amazing as expected. Not only did she kill 2 birds with 1 stone, she killed 3 birds with 1 stone. In just a few days, she actually found a suitable Jindan cultivator to establish a country. It seems, she knows that this old man will not make things difficult for her. Everyone knows that Master is benevolent. As long as you do not do anything outrageous, even if Master is angry, there is no need to be afraid." Xiongyi smiled and then winked as he lowered his voice and asked, "Master, that lightning tribulation, what was it?" "Lightning tribulation is lightning tribulation. What could it be?" Xiao Hua waved his sleeve in annoyance and said, "This lightning tribulation is not this old man's, don't think so much." "Oh." Xiongyi blinked. Seeing Xiao Hua stand, he hurriedly stood and sent Xiao Hua into the quiet room. However, before Xiao Hua entered the quiet room, he stopped and turned around. "Also, Master is going into closed-door cultivation for a period of time. If there are any earth-shaking movements in the future, all of you don't have to be too surprised." "All right." Xiongyi hurriedly agreed. "Also, urge Black Bear to have all the yarrows, and the outer sect disciples go down the veins. Empty the veins as soon as possible." Xiao Hua thought of something again and instructed, "When Master makes a move, there won't be any meat left for you." Understood. "Master, this disciple will roll up his sleeves and go to work." Xiongyi giggled and left. After Xiongyi left, Xiao Hua did not enter the quiet room. Instead, his figure flashed and disappeared into the void. When Xiao Hua reappeared, he was already outside the Blackwind Ridge. This place was about 40 li away from the Blackwind Ridge. Xiao Hua's figure appeared in mid-air. He frowned as he looked down at the mountain rocks below. He seemed to be thinking about something. However, after a short while, Xiao Hua stretched out his hand. A huge palm silhouette of several tens of zhong in size fell from the sky and plunged into a pile of rocks. When the big hand turned over, that big hand was holding a scholarly cultivator in a yellow robe. This scholarly cultivator's robe was very strange. It was somewhat similar to the outer robe of a secular person, but there were some flashing inscriptions on the robe. There were also mountains and rivers printed on the chest and back of the robe. It looked similar to the official robe worn by the secular government officials. "This cultivator is a bit strange." Xiao Hua looked at the cultivator imprisoned by him and thought to himself, not only is his appearance different, but his cultivation is also strange. It seems that he is only proficient in the earth escape technique and concealment technique. He should be very proficient in the earth essence technique. But he is also very weak in other aspects. Under the attack of this Xiao's magic power, he didn't notice at all. There seems to be some kind of aura on this robe. Thinking of this, Xiao Hua's expression suddenly changed. He whispered, "Where is fellow immortal Confucian cultivator?" Wang. 4-colored true qi gushed out from Xiao Hua's chest. That Confucian cultivator Xiao Hua landed in the air. When he saw everything in front of him clearly, the Confucian cultivator Xiao Hua's expression was also grave. He nodded and said, "Fellow Daoist's worries are correct. This Confucian cultivator's robe has the same aura as the Imperial Starthrust and the Imperial Shield. This scholarly cultivator must be the eyes and ears of the Immortal Palace. Thank you, fellow Immortal." Xiao Hua nodded slightly and sent Xiao Hua back. Then, he thought for a moment and slowly extended his finger. He was extremely careful as if he was afraid of breaking the cultivator's forehead. Then, he quickly withdrew his finger. Earth Lord. Xiao Hua's face showed an astonished expression. The Immortal Palace really has Earth Lords all over the hidden Immortal Continent. Granny, no wonder the Immortal Palace can control the entire hidden Immortal Continent's information. Oh, that's not it. Not every place on the hidden Immortal Continent has Immortal Palace's eyes and ears. Although in name, the Earth Lord supervises the entire hidden Immortal Continent's information, these Earth Lords can't always pay attention to all the movements. Only the places that the Immortal Palace pays attention to have Earth Lords truly investigate. It turns out that the Black Wind Ridge doesn't enter the Immortal Palace's eyes at all. It seems that because of this Xiao, it attracted Earth Lord. But, this is troublesome. Xiao Hua shook his head slightly. If my Fortune Gate's disciples leave the Black Wind Ridge, won't all traces be seen by Earth Lord? Then, won't the newly found cave be exposed to the Immortal Palace's surveillance? He. Xiao Hua pondered for a moment and a smile appeared on his face. Several extremely small soul strands were released from between his eyebrows and landed on the Earth Lord's forehead. After a while, Xiao Hua put the Earth Lord back into the ground and flew away with a smile on his face. After dealing with the Earth Lord's surveillance, Xiao Hua formed an incantation and used the Earth Escape technique to escape towards the Black Wind Ridge. On the first day he returned to the Black Wind Ridge, he had tried to sense the metal and wood essence blood that had seeped into his body. Unfortunately, no matter how many times he tried, it was to no avail. Now that he had dealt with everything, he began to busy himself with the most important matter in his heart. At this time, Xiao Hua's Earth Escape technique had already reached a high level. Not to mention that he could move extremely nimbly underground, even in places without Earth attribute origin energy, he could rely on his own Earth attribute energy to move. Therefore, this time it was very easy for him to reach the location of the black fog. -13. Chapter 38:16. However, the black fog underground was still like a viscous liquid. Clusters of tiny vortexes were endlessly produced from the inside, constantly spreading towards the outside. However, even at this place, Xiao Hua was still unable to sense the blood essence in the water and fire magnetic field. Xiao Hua's heart had already turned cold by more than half. Damn it, looks like this Xiao's method isn't working. Xiao Hua breathed out spiritual fire and drilled through the fog while secretly thinking, I still have to. Ouch. Success. That is to say, when Xiao Hua's figure had just rushed through the black fog that was several tens of feet deep, a familiar feeling suddenly emerged from the bottom of his heart. It was just like when he used the blood refining method to refine the demonic tool in the past. The entire magnificent water and fire magnetic field space had yet to appear, but the situation inside the space had already fallen into his heart. Haha, the blood refining method of the demonic world is indeed powerful. It can really shock the heavens and earth and make ghosts and gods weep. Xiao Hua laughed loudly, his figure landing inside the magnetic field space. At this time, Xiao Hua already didn't need to open his transcendence vision. What the naked eye could see was a pitch-black mass, but the entire water and fire magnetic field was like a part of Xiao Hua's body, incomparably familiar with it. Even those tens of thousands of magnetic fields were like rainbows in Xiao Hua's heart. What was special was that at the extreme point of the fire magnetic field, a vermilion bird poked its head out from inside, somewhat curiously looking at Xiao Hua. Without any hesitation, it turned into a rainbow and landed below Xiao Hua's body, obediently lying beside him, appearing very attached. At the same time, at the extreme point of the water magnetic field, the other black tortoise also didn't show any signs of weakness. It naively flew out, turned into a square foot, and landed on Xiao Hua's right arm, similarly obedient. Good. Xiao Hua was happy in his heart, using his hand to caress the black tortoise and vermilion bird. Unfortunately, where his hand landed, he simply couldn't touch the two little things. Forget it. Xiao Hua was a little embarrassed. He shrugged and said, wait for this old man to collect all of you. I reckon that once we enter the space, this old man will be able to touch you. After speaking, Xiao Hua released his consciousness and covered the fire and water origin magnetic field. When his consciousness came into contact with the fire and water origin magnetic field, Xiao Hua was instantly dumbfounded. He couldn't help but complain bitterly, "Oh my god, this fire and water origin magnetic field is 3,650 mu in size. If it was an ordinary mountain, with this Xiao's current divine sense, even if it takes a lot of effort, this Xiao would still be able to store it in the space. But this is a water and fire magnetic field. Its weight is many times that of an ordinary mountain peak. With this Xiao's current cultivation, I'm afraid I won't be able to store it in my space. Rise." At this moment, Xiao Hua's mind was mixed with his divine sense and could already wrap up the entire water and fire magnetic field. While his mind was affected, Xiao Hua secretly shouted in his heart, as if to encourage himself, "Rumble." The entire magnetic field space shook several times, scaring the tiny black tortoise and vermilion bird into fleeing. The water and fire magnetic fields had only moved a few inches, and there was still a large gap between them and the space. "Forget it. Today this old man will exhaust you to the end." After knowing the gap, Xiao Hua wasn't discouraged. He simply sat cross-legged in the magnetic field space and released his consciousness, divine sense, and Buddhist sense. Just like when he was in the rockfall matrix of Yaotai Mountain, he began to temper his divine sense according to the secret technique. Of course, in addition to tempering his divine sense, Xiao Hua also practiced other divine abilities. Every few days, he would even fly out of the magnetic field space and summon a nascent soul. He would feed the nascent soul with human essence and use spiritual wisdom amplification. However, in this way, the Black Wind Ridge would suffer. Every once in a while, the entire Black Wind Ridge would shake a few times. Moreover, from time to time, the might of a lightning tribulation would suddenly appear. However, everyone and the demons of the Black Wind Ridge had also received Xiongyi's order. They knew that their master was cultivating, so they didn't ask too much. In fact, they didn't have time to ask too much because the Black Wind Ridge's underground ore vein was really enormous. They mined day and night and simply didn't have time to ask too much. Time passed very quickly. In the blink of an eye, more than 3 years had passed. On this day, the sky was clear and boundless. Outside the Black Wind Ridge, some of the Golden Eagle's subordinates were patrolling. Suddenly, the entire Black Wind Ridge shook violently. This shaking was far more weak than the previous weak shaking. Several of the vicious birds were shocked. The leading vicious bird let out a few loud cries and rushed into the great array. The other vicious birds spread their wings again, wanting to find the source of the abnormality. After all, in the past 3 years, although there were still some Confucian cultivators who came back to the Black Wind Ridge to provoke them, they were defeated by Xiongyi, Li Xiong, and Prince Lan every time. There had never been such a big movement. However, before the vicious bird landed on the peak of the Black Wind Ridge, the shaking suddenly stopped. A powerful suction force was generated from the capital star array. Tens of thousands of hurricanes rushed in from all directions and madly rushed into the great array. With these hurricanes, the great array unexpectedly changed. Not only did it expand in all directions, but the power of the great array also suddenly increased. The vicious bird's body instantly stopped in midair. Then, as if a big hand had grabbed it, woo! It was thrown high into the sky. Gah! The vicious bird was shocked. It flapped its wings in midair, but it still couldn't stop its body. It didn't stop until its body was thousands of feet high in the sky. Ha ha ha! As soon as the vicious bird stopped, Xiao Hua's laughter came from the cave. Then, a powerful divine sense that the vicious bird had never seen before suddenly grabbed it and pulled it down from the sky. When it fell outside the great array like a meteor, the divine sense suddenly disappeared. "Thank you, Master. Thank you, Master." How could the vicious bird not know that this was Xiao Hua's divine sense? It shouted loudly and flew into the distance to patrol. After the water and fire magnets were absorbed into the space, the capital star array's power actually increased by 40% without the interference of the water and fire magnets. If I used the water and fire magnets to set up a great array, wouldn't all the methods to break the array be useless? Xiao Hua's divine sense swept and immediately understood the reason for the great array's change. Master, you've come out of seclusion? A moment later, Xiong Yi, Prince Lan, and Li Xiong flew out from the primordial stone vein and came to meet him. Yes, it's over. Xiao Hua smiled. Xiong Yi was a little strange and whispered, Master, you've only been in seclusion for 3 years, right? Just 3 years. Xiong Yi didn't say anything else. Yes, ordinary nascent soul cultivators would enter seclusion for decades or even centuries. How could they come out in 3 years? Mph, you think I don't want to? Xiao Hua snorted, but I'm a little uneasy, and I just finished a big thing, so I came out to take a look. Master isn't in seclusion, Li Xiong said with a smile. Disciple occasionally sees Master going in and out of the Great Array. Indeed. Xiao Hua nodded. Master is just making some preparations to prevent the Confucian cultivators from attacking my Black Wind Ridge. Right. Have you heard of the Immortal Palace's eyes and ears? Earth. Earth. Li Xiong was stunned and shook his head. Isn't the Earth Geyser a character in legends and stories? Not necessarily. Prince Lan immediately understood and smiled. There's no smoke without fire. Maybe the characters in the stories are copies of reality. Could it be that Master saw the Immortal Palace's land? Xiong Yi's eyes turned and asked. Yes. Xiao Hua nodded. Master has already seen it. Master has also taken care of this matter, so you don't have to worry. However, who knows how much land there is in the entire hidden immortal continent. You all have to be careful and don't give yourself away. Master is worried. Royal Highness Lan seemed to have thought of something and hurriedly reported, Disciple received some information. After the Jade Pavilion meeting, on the hidden immortal continent, including the Jiang country next to it, there were a total of 10 Daoist countries that received the imperial tutor's signature to establish their own countries. And in the past year, there were actually 4 countries that were annihilated by the Immortal Palace. 2 of these 4 countries were in the Jing province, and the other 2 were near the Jing province. If this disciple's guess is correct, the remaining 6 countries, including Jiang country, will be destroyed by the Immortal Palace sooner or later. This is probably due to the contribution of this so-called land. Master, this matter is very strange. Your intuition is also reasonable. Li Xiong said from the side, the Immortal Palace has never interfered with the affairs of the hidden immortal continent on the surface. Unless a great demon of the 1000 demon saint realm appears, the Immortal Palace may send troops. How could they send troops to annihilate the Daoist country this time? The premonitions of Shui Mingzi and Ao Zhantian are indeed reasonable. Xiong Yi said with a frown, the current hidden immortal continent is really sensitive. Xiao Hua's heart skipped a beat, and an extremely bad feeling arose. Others might not know the intentions of the Immortal Palace, but how could he not know? Granny, maybe the Star Sovereign Palace really did something. Xiao Hua thought inwardly. The Immortal Palace probably couldn't find the culprit who killed Kong Hongwu, so they simply killed all the suspect. Who knows when it will be the Black Wind Ridge's turn? Let's go, we'll enter the cave to discuss. Xiao Hua looked around and turned to enter the cave. Xiong Yi and the others followed in. Xiao Hua sat on the brocade chair and immediately asked, Li Xiong, how's the backup plan for our fortune gate? Yes, Master knows. Li Xiong hurriedly answered, Disciple and senior brother Lan have already found the location of the soaring dragon mountain range. The heaven and earth origin energy there is abundant, and there are no signs of human habitation. Junior brother Fu Jiwen has also explored the mountain range and said that it is very suitable to set up a formation. Disciple has already instructed Black Bear to send some subordinates to excavate some caves on the main peak of the mountain range and make some preparations. Good, this matter should not be delayed. Xiao Hua nodded. Tell the disciples that there is no need to mine in the source stone vein anymore. Pack up and prepare to move our fortune gate from the Black Wind Ridge to the soaring Dragon Mountain range. Also, Xiong Yi, go and call Fu Jiwen over. Master will bring him to the soaring Dragon Mountain range to set up the formation. Yes, Master. Xiong Yi agreed, and just as he was about to leave the cave, he suddenly turned back and said, Master, actually, there is no need to be so anxious. -13. Chapter 38:17. Hearing Xiongyi's words, Xiao Hua was rather puzzled and asked curiously, "Oh, why?" The 4 countries that junior brother Lan mentioned were all destroyed a year ago, and this disciple also received news that 2 months ago, something big happened at Longevity Town in the country of Xi. The Confucian cultivators can't even take care of themselves, so they won't make any moves in a short period of time. Ah! What big matter! Xiao Hua had a lot of feelings for Longevity Town, so he couldn't help but be shocked and hurriedly asked. The abbot of Jiangchao Temple, Lashan, was killed. Xiongyi just said it casually, but he didn't expect Xiao Hua to take it so seriously. He couldn't help but stand there and answer curiously. Xiao Hua frowned and asked curiously, "Jiangchao Temple? Lashan?" That's right, when Xiao Hua left Longevity Town, Jiangchao Temple was still a Taoist temple. How did it become a Buddhist temple now? And wasn't Longevity Town's Little Gold Temple? Wasn't the abbot of Little Gold Temple that Ming Yu? However, Xiao Hua immediately realized that if he could leave Longevity Town, then wouldn't the people and things in Longevity Town be changed? Do you know who killed him? Xiao Hua narrowed his eyes. Was it a Confucian cultivator? It's definitely a Confucian cultivator, Xiongyi answered with a smile. Even if it wasn't a Confucian cultivator, it's definitely a Confucian cultivator. Hiss. When Xiongyi said this, Xiao Hua instantly sucked in a breath of cold air. His entire body froze in place, and he couldn't help but exclaim in a low voice, "The Battle of Swords." Not only was Xiao Hua shocked, but Lashan's death reminded him of the Battle of Swords in Xiaoyu continent. Now, Ci Mai, who was sitting cross-legged on Jiangchao Ridge, also had a myriad of thoughts in her heart. Where was the leisurely bearing she had when she sent Lashan to Longevity Town? The current Jiangchao Ridge was no longer the same as when Xiao Hua left. The entire dilapidated Jiangchao Temple had been completely demolished, and even the entire Jiangchao Ridge had been flattened. Right in front of Ci Mai, a 99 zhong tall Buddha statue stood in the rising sun. However, this Buddha statue was covered from top to bottom by a layer of huge yellow cloth, and the statue's true body couldn't be seen clearly. Under the Buddha statue, on the side of the Jiangchao Ridge, the thousands of farmers from before had also disappeared. The farmland had also disappeared, and in its place was a Jiangchao temple that was 10 times larger than the small golden temple. The fate of the world was truly a joke. The Jiangchao temple and the Xiaojin temple fought each other. Whoever lost would disappear from the Longevity Town. Xiao Hua transformed into Ci Hang and defeated Xiaojin temple. Originally, it should have been Jiangchao monastery that won, but Ci Hang was a Buddhist, so Xiaojin temple seized the victory and chased Jiangchao monasteries Xiao Jian, Xiao Hua, and Yuan Ya out of Longevity Town. But now, the small golden temple had been completely forgotten by the Longevity Town. This previously unknown river and tide temple was famous far and wide. At this time, the entire Jiangchao Ridge was completely surrounded by the Jiangchao Ridge. The road under the Jiangchao Ridge was also included in the Jiangchao Monastery. Even the paddy fields under the road and the Liao River were filled up and repaired very smoothly. There were stone steps that led from the Liao River to the Jiangchao Ridge, and there were rows of neatly arranged guest rooms. Normally, some good men and women would come over from the Liao River on large boats or small boats, and it was precisely from here that they went up to the Jiangchao Ridge to worship the golden body of the Guanyin Bodhisattva. On the other side of the Jiangchao Ridge, where the incense was at its peak, there were many temple buildings like the Hall of Great Strength. Each of them had a majestic aura, and a myriad of scenes. Waves of sutra chanting came from within with a rhythm, and the occasional bell rang throughout the entire Longevity Town. If Xiao Hua was here, he would definitely be full of praise. In just a dozen years, the entire Jiangchao monastery had undergone such a great change. Moreover, this change was not caused by the Buddhist sect's disciples, but purely by the spontaneous action of the ordinary people. It could be said that man could conquer the heavens. However, even in the face of such prosperous Buddhist incense and the rhythmic sound of the wooden fish, Ci Mai couldn't help but sigh. Sigh. She looked at the golden body of the Guanyin Bodhisattva not far in front of her. Although the golden body of the Guanyin Bodhisattva was covered by a brocade, when the endless sunlight shone on the Buddha statue, it was actually suffused with mottled colors. Within these colors, there were actually all kinds of living beings. It was truly bizarre. However, Mai understood in her heart that this phenomenon was the phenomenon reflected when the extremely pure power of faith poured into the golden body of the Buddha statue. If she released her Buddhist consciousness and opened her eyes, she would definitely be able to see thousands of psyche power clustered around the power of faith flying over like waves from all directions. It was as if the power of faith had flowed into the sea and landed on this unconsecrated Buddha statue. Mai didn't know what kind of good karma Hang had in the past, but just by saving tens of thousands of villagers in the longevity town, Mai believed that he definitely wouldn't have such abundant power of faith. However, the timing of the Guanyin Bodhisattva's appearance was too crucial. At this crucial moment, there was such a suitable opportunity. Even if Hang didn't do any special good karma, this gathering of winds and clouds would push him to the peak of the karma. Under the golden body of the Guanyin Bodhisattva was another ordinary coffin. The coffin wasn't covered, and the rising sun couldn't shine on the corpse inside. A pitch-black and gloomy coldness seeped out from the coffin. Even the Buddhist light of the Guanyin Bodhisattva's golden body couldn't dispel this darkness and gloomy coldness. When Mai sighed, Jing Cheng, who was sitting next to her and chanting softly, hurriedly stopped and asked in a low voice, "Grandmaster." Mai ignored Jing Cheng. She stood up and slowly took a few steps back as if she was respectful to the golden body of the Guanyin Bodhisattva. Then, she walked step by step to the edge of the Jiangchao Ridge. She stood in front of the white marble stone railings and looked up at the stone steps on the side of the Liao River. Her eyes narrowed as she thought about something. Jing Cheng hesitated slightly and also stood up. He followed behind Mai and stood respectfully a few feet away. His gaze also fell on the stone steps. These stone steps originally led from the main road to the Jiangchao Ridge. It was steep and narrow. Back then, Xiao Hua had rolled down here. Now, it was unknown how many times wider it was than before. However, at this time, the stone steps were filled with good men and women kneeling. They stretched from the top of the stone steps to the shore of the Liao River. In fact, on the other three sides of Jiangchao Ridge, there were also many good men and women kneeling on the ground. The densely packed heads were almost endless to the naked eye. "Grandmaster." When Jing Cheng saw the benevolence on Mai's face, he probingly said, "These good men and women have been kneeling here for a long time. Some have been kneeling here for several days, while others have been kneeling for dozens of days. Although they haven't fasted, if they continue like this, it is very likely that some of them won't be able to hold on. When that time comes, it will be even more difficult for my Jiangchao monastery. Grandmaster, how about?" The benevolence on Mai's face disappeared and she indifferently asked, "How about what?" Jing Cheng was startled as if he heard the difference in Mai's tone. Jing Cheng softly said, "Disciple doesn't know what to do. However, this disciple feels that we should do something. It doesn't matter what we do. Otherwise, we would truly be letting down the trust of these kind-hearted men and women." Jing Cheng couldn't not answer, so he clasped his hands together and said in a low voice. Mai asked with interest, "Let me ask you, what do you think we should do?" This. Jing Cheng was somewhat regretful and felt that he shouldn't have followed. However, if he hadn't followed, how could he have stood beside Grandmaster Mai? There were so many monks in the entire Jiangchao monastery. He was probably the only one who had this qualification, right? No matter what we do, disciple feels that at the very least, we should give them a promise to find the real culprit who killed Marshal Uncle Shan. Only then will we be able to live up to their trust in our Jiangchao monastery. Only then will we be able to live up to their kneeling here for more than 10 days. He answered honestly. Could it be that Grandmaster doesn't think so? Alas. Mai sighed again and shook her head. Jing Cheng, do you feel that I'm sighing because of their trust and sincerity? Then what is Grandmaster sighing about? Jing Cheng was somewhat dumbfounded. He felt that his brain couldn't keep up with Mai's words. I'm envious of senior martial brother Hang's luck. I'm sighing about my helplessness. With my current state of mind and what I've done all these years, I don't even know when I will be able to achieve fruition. I'll be able to achieve fruition in this lifetime. Mai looked into the distance and said in a low voice, I'm envious of those Ku-tutuo. Although their cultivation is difficult, their Buddhist heart is firm and untainted by any worldly affairs. This kind of cultivation is something that our Buddhist disciples should have. He, Grandmaster. Jing Cheng smiled and said, although Ku-tutuo's cultivation is praised by our Buddha, our Buddhist sect has 13 Buddhas. However, our 13 Buddhist sects all have Buddhist fruits. Grandmaster, there is no need to be envious of others. Do you know? Mai suddenly said, the most recent bodhisattva who achieved fruition is Nanwu wise Manjushri Bodhisattva. Before achieving fruition, it was Hui of the Green Lotus Temple of the Seong sect. Her cultivation was only in the realm of the Bright Lotus. Disciple naturally knows this. I'm also very envious. I'll also seize the time to cultivate and strive to reach the realm of the Bright Lotus as soon as possible. Jing Cheng hurriedly smiled. However, he immediately regretted it. Mai was already in the realm of the Lotus. Although he and Hui were of the same generation, they still hadn't achieved fruition. Wouldn't his words agitate her? Fortunately, Mai didn't seem to care. She shook her head slightly and said, Jing Cheng, you still don't understand. Have you ever seen a bodhisattva achieve fruition outside the Pure Land world? Oh, or should I say, do you know, it's far more difficult to achieve fruition outside the Pure Land world. Yes, disciple understands. Jing Cheng nodded and said, the Pure Land world is a place illuminated by the Buddha's light. All living beings have strong willpower, so it's relatively easy to achieve fruition. No, you don't understand at all. Mai said coldly. Jing Cheng was shocked. He hurriedly put his palms together and asked, Grandmaster, please enlighten me. Amitabha. Mai chanted the name of Buddha. She stretched out a finger and pointed at her chest, fiercely tapping it twice. This. Jing Cheng was really at a loss. It wasn't that he wasn't proficient in Buddhism. It was just that what Mai said exceeded what he had learned. He really didn't understand where the Zen principle of Mai's action was. -13. Chapter 38:18. Heart. Today, Mai was different from the past. She didn't scold Jing Cheng too much and didn't let Jing Cheng comprehend it himself. Instead, she said, if you don't have a Buddha's heart, even in the Pure Land world, it's hard to attain enlightenment. This, of course I know. Jing Cheng said bitterly. He said in a low voice, I came to the hidden immortal continent and became the abbot of the Cloud Forest Temple. Didn't I preach the Dharma and have a Buddha's heart? Your Buddha's heart is only a Buddha's heart and a Buddha's heart. It's not the Buddha's heart. Mai hit the nail on the head. Not only you, even I have lost my Buddha's heart. Hiss. Jing Cheng was shocked and asked hurriedly, why? What's a Buddha's heart? If I knew what a Buddha's heart was, I would be like senior brother Hang and Manjushri. Mai answered. Then, she looked back at the coffin under the golden body and said, actually, when I sent kindness to Jiang Chao Temple, the Buddha's heart that I could have, was already gone. Ah! Grandmaster! Jing Cheng's body trembled and his voice trembled. Could it be that Grandmaster knew that there would be such a day? No. I didn't know. Mai shook her head. Or I buried my head in the monk's robe. I didn't want to know. However, I heard the news that kindness was killed. I knew that kindness was the first, but he's definitely not the last. No one knows who the last one will be. No one knows when the last one will be. I understand. Jing Cheng seemed to have suddenly realized something and said hurriedly, the Buddha's heart that Grandmaster talked about is a heart that is clear and not tainted by the mortal world. We are Buddhas outside the Pure Land world who aim to promote the Dharma. How can we not be tainted by the mortal world and be clear? That's right, Jing Cheng. You finally got something. Mai smiled. I'm very gratified. But, Grandmaster, if we didn't promote the Dharma, how could there be so many believers? How could our Buddha's light shine on the hidden immortals? Jing Cheng asked. Mai nodded again. That's right. If we don't subdue demons and protect Buddha, how can we be Buddhist protectors? If it weren't for us sacrificing our hearts to impart the teachings, how could the Buddha's light reach so far? Alas, disciple understands why Grandmaster sighs. Jing Cheng sighed as well. He looked at the 99 feet tall Buddha statue and said, this disciple is also envious of Ku Tutuo's bitter cultivation. Since you know, will you still make a promise to these kind men and women? Mai asked again. Jing Cheng shook his head slightly. I can't give you this promise, nor can I. They might have thought that they were doing what they were supposed to do, but they didn't expect that the same kneeling would have different effects at different times. In 9 years, they prayed for blessings for the people 9 times, and the golden body of Namo Guanyin Bodhisattva 9 times. Every time, the Confucian cultivators were defeated by the people. This time, they were still kneeling and kowtowing. However, they were not praying for blessings, they were forcing him. You are forcing my Buddhist sect. That's right. In 9 years, the Confucian cultivators destroyed the golden body of Namo Guanyin Bodhisattva 9 times. In 9 years, it was these unarmed believers who reconstructed the golden body of Namo Guanyin Bodhisattva 9 times. How majestic is the power of the people's will. It's also this majestic power that forced Lashan to his death. It's also this majestic belief that killed millions or even tens of millions of lives. Mai sighed. This is the believer's fault. Or the Buddhist Lord's fault. Or is it my fault? None of them. Jing Cheng shook his head. It's the Confucian cultivators' fault. They shouldn't have challenged my Buddhist sect's bottom line time and time again. They shouldn't have killed Martial Uncle Lashan, who didn't even have the strength to truss a chicken. Do you think this is the work of the Confucian cultivators? Mai asked. Jing Cheng shook his head and said, this disciple doesn't know either. It's just that Martial Uncle Lashan's body was injured by the water essence. Even if the Confucian cultivators wanted to get away with it, it's impossible for them to get away with it. Even if the Chongyun sect withdrew Longevity Academy from Longevity Town after Martial Uncle Lashan came to Longevity Town and even secretly sent experts to protect him, they still can't eliminate their suspicions. The water qi chaoyuan is a common cultivation method of Confucian cultivators in the Zhangxian continent. Except for the demons in the Thousand Demons sacred realm, even the disciples of Buddhism and Taoism can cultivate the pure water qi chaoyuan genuine qi, let alone Confucian cultivators. Ah! Buddhist disciples? This isn't very possible. Jing Cheng turned pale with fright when he heard this. He lowered his head to look at the monk chanting sutras in the distance and said, Grandmaster, you're saying, my heart is no longer a Buddhist heart. It's hard to avoid thinking too much. Mai wasn't surprised by Jing Cheng's reaction. This might be what some Buddhist disciples think. No, I don't believe it. Jing Cheng shook his head. I still think that it's either the Confucian cultivators who killed Martial Uncle Lashan and forced our Buddhist sect to withdraw from the hidden immortal continent, or it's the remnants of the Taoist sect who killed Martial Uncle Lashan and wanted to provoke a war between us immortals and Buddhas so that their Taoist sect can benefit from it. Therefore, Grandmaster, we must find the real culprit. Jing Cheng, you still don't understand. The truth of the matter is actually no longer important. Mai shook her head. What's important is that Longevity Town, the #1 town of our Buddhist sect in the hidden immortal continent, the #1 Taoist sect of our Namo Guanyin Bodhisattva in the hidden immortal continent, and Abbot Lashan was killed by the Confucian cultivators. This is the most important thing. Grandmaster, what do you mean? Jing Cheng's face suddenly turned ashen. He seemed to have thought of something and cried out in surprise. Swoosh! At this moment, a Buddhist light flashed in the distant sky, and a Buddhist document fell in front of Mai. Mai reached out and scanned it with her Buddhist awareness. Her calm face slightly frowned and relaxed. She put the Buddhist document into her monk robe and said faintly, 10 days ago, the Yu province Confucian cultivator Shui Song state was destroyed by the Buddhist sect's Ji state. 253,000 people died. The Hu state was destroyed by the Confucian sect's Zun state and the Taoist sect's Yong state. 510,000 people died. 510,000 people? Jing Cheng was shocked. How could there be so many? The Yu province sect's Spirit Mountain's Chu Feng sect was destroyed by the Buddhist sect's Dilian state. 30,000 people died. The Yu province Jilian Mountain's Lianzhang temple was destroyed by an unknown Confucian cultivator. 603 people died. It's a mess, a mess. Jing Cheng bit his lips and seemed to be in disbelief. Swoosh. Before Jing Cheng finished speaking, several Buddhist lights flew from all directions to Si Mai's hand as if they had agreed beforehand. The Jing province's Chu family destroyed the Wind and Rain temple. The Buddhist sect's Ji state captured the Confucian sect's Ming state and the Mengji state. The death toll is unknown. The Duanmu family sent an emissary with the family head's order to command the Yu province and the Liang province's Confucian state to destroy the nearby Buddhist state. The monks of the Ji province's Xiaolin temple, Linjiang temple, and Great Pine temple died suddenly. The Jing Mountain sect, Yunfeng sect, and Jilin Academy's defenses were also broken by an unknown force. The death toll is uncountable. The three Buddhist states of Gun province, the Xiangbai state, the Pure Moon state, and the Lianxin state, the Qing province's Jiyun temple, and the Cheng state have sent soldier monks to reinforce our River Tide temple and resist the Confucian cultivators together. Si Mai took the Buddhist archives, scanned them with her Buddhist awareness, and read them one by one. Every time she read a message, Jing Cheng's body trembled. In the end, he couldn't help but say, "Grandmaster, aren't they causing trouble? Don't they know this is strange? Don't they know the seriousness of this matter? The first town of the Buddhist state. This is also the first golden Buddha statue on the hidden immortal continent." Si Mai put away the Buddhist archives and said with a sigh, "These Buddhas and Buddhist states, whether they have the intention or not, they can't not come. There must be some truth and some lies in these messages." Jing Cheng suddenly said in a low voice, "Maybe Grandmaster can find the culprit." Si Mai asked in reply, "If you did this, would you still draw legs on a snake?" Jing Cheng was speechless. Swoosh. Suddenly, another Buddhist light flew from afar. However, this Buddhist archive didn't land in front of Si Mai, but in Jing Cheng's hand. Jing Cheng didn't dare to be negligent. He hastily grabbed it and scanned it with his Buddhist awareness. His expression immediately changed again, and he hurriedly sent it to Si Mai's hand while shouting, "Grandmaster, the 10 Confucian states of Yu province have jointly sent 1,000,000 troops to besiege our Longevity town. They're preparing to forcibly disperse the believers and topple the golden body of Guanyin Bodhisattva." Hiss. Si Mai was also shocked when she saw this. They really dare to make a move. That's right, Grandmaster. What does the Buddhist Lord plan to do? Jing Cheng asked. Si Mai smiled bitterly and said, "How can I know what the Buddha's plan is? I'm afraid that even the immortal palace of Confucian cultivators doesn't know, right?" Woo! At this moment, a violent explosion suddenly sounded in the distant sky. Then, a fist of several acres in size rolled up thousands of pillars of great chi and smashed toward the golden body of Guanyin Bodhisattva faster than a meteorite falling from the sky. "Amitabha, how dare you!" Si Mai chanted the name of Buddha, and the Buddhist light flashed around her body. She slapped her forehead and her psyche power rushed out. The Buddhist light rushed into the sky like rolling clouds and condensed into the shape of a huge lotus. This lotus was several acres in size, and there were hundreds of tiny heavenly dragons swimming in it. Layers of Sanskrit characters gushed out with the heavenly dragons, and in the void shrouded by the lotus, chanting came out. Boom! The fist landed on the lotus. The light of Buddha was annihilated and turned into rolling inscriptions. The fist was also penetrated by the light of Buddha and turned into thousands of inscriptions. The huge airwave not only lifted the silk cloth outside the golden body of Guanyin Bodhisattva, but also blew tens of thousands of devotees in the vicinity of Jiangchao Ridge to the ground. Si Mai's body swayed slightly, and a touch of red flashed across her forehead. "Haha, Si Mai, you're just SOSO. An arrogant voice sounded, "This is just a little warning from me. I won't take your life today. However, I heard that your Nirvana world has sent Buddhist generals and soldier monks to the immortal town. Today, I'll tell you one thing. If any of them set foot in the immortal town, I'll wash the Jiangchao temple with blood. I'll kill tens of thousands of your believers. 13. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.